Chapter 549. The tall, skinny lady nodded. The blazing blood door was built by my master for outsiders. Many of those who visit my island are not qualified to meet my master. You want to ask for treasures? My master asked them to challenge the blazing blood door. The blazing blood door is filled with danger, and the more danger one passes, the more benefits one will get. Dongbo Shuang understood. It was not hard to imagine that the master of the island had a very high status a long time ago, and there must have been a lot of visitors. That master didn't even bother to greet them, and just set up the blazing blood door. But not everyone is qualified to open the blazing blood door. The tall, skinny lady said, so before opening the blazing blood door, you have to go through a screening test, and filter out a large number of ordinary cultivators. Screening test? Dongbo Shuang was confused. Yes, there is an opponent in front of you. Only by defeating him will you pass the screening test, and you will be qualified to enter the blazing blood door. The tall, skinny lady pointed at the skinny warrior who was already standing on the blood-colored disc. Make him surrender or blast him out of the blazing blood door, and you will defeat him. Let's begin. The tall, skinny lady said calmly. Chao Wu, don't be careless and lose. A burly warrior with golden eyes beside him shouted. Little brother Chao Wu, you have to win some face for us and kill this outsider. The seductive lady who was an expert in witchcraft poison said while covering her mouth. Little brother Chao Wu, finish him, finish him. We believe in you. The warriors in blood-colored armor shouted. After waking up from their long slumber, they were greeted with a screening test for the blazing blood door, and it was a joy that they had not experienced for a long time. These old guys were too lonely, and they naturally stood on the side of their companions, looking forward to the scene of Dongbo Shuiying's death. Boom. A faint red light shot out from the blood-colored disc, and the red light enveloped the area above it. Dongbo Shuiying and the skinny warrior were both in the area. Make him surrender or blast him out of the red light and I will win, right? Dongbo Shuiying said. This kid is quite confident. Chao Wu, kill him. At this moment, a group of black-armored monsters appeared at the entrance of the mountain. These black-armored monsters were either in human form, beast form, or bird form. All of them were watching the battle with great interest. The black-armored monsters and the crimson-armored warriors were even chatting with each other. They seemed to be quite familiar with each other. My name is Chao Wu. On the round plate, the skinny armored warrior stared at Dongbo Shuiying. His voice was piercing to the ears. I've seen your previous battle. You have a supreme art. But it's a pity that I'm your nemesis. Die. As he spoke, the skinny armored warrior suddenly manifested 6 arms, each of which was holding a curved blade. Wah! A distorted silver trail flashed in midair, and the skinny armored warrior had already arrived beside Dongbo Shuiying. At this moment, Dongbo Shuiying was still comfortably feeling the area. This was because ever since the red light appeared, Dongbo Shuiying felt that the suppression from the Lake Heart Island historical remnant had completely disappeared. He could now use his world deity territory and he could also use his world energy. Obviously, as a fair test, the Lake Heart Island historical remnant would not suppress Dongbo Shuiying at all. So fast. Dongbo Shuiying took a step forward, and his figure disappeared into thin air. When he reappeared, he was already hundreds of thousands of miles away, and the skinny armored warrior's blade light missed its target. Still. Seeing this, the skinny armored warrior furrowed his brows and bellowed. Dongbo Shuiying immediately felt that the surrounding space had been sealed. With a slight smile, he activated his world energy and started to condense it. Numerous starry blue-robed Dongbo Shuiying appeared, and a total of 9 Dongbo Shuiying appeared at the same time. Each of them wielded a black spear and attacked the skinny armored warrior, displaying a myriad of spear techniques. At the same time, a dazzling luminous sun force appeared, traversing in all directions, instantly entangling with the skinny armored warrior. Kill. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the skinny armored warrior. Oh. His figure became blurry, and the surrounding time and space started to distort. The blurry figure instantly closed in on one of the world bodies of Dongbo Shuiying. The 6 arms of the skinny armored warrior brandished blade light, and the blade light turned into a silver trail. Although one of the world bodies had a hard time defending against it, it was still struck by the blade light, and the body was directly split into pieces. Although the other 8 world bodies were attacking the skinny armored warrior, the defense of the world bodies could be said to be invincible. The spear techniques of the world bodies could not injure him at all, and could only affect his movement techniques. What a fast movement technique and what a ruthless blade technique. No wonder he said that he can restrain me. Dongbu Shui Ying's true body stood in the distance, watching this scene, and was inwardly shocked. With such blade techniques and 6 arms, it will be troublesome for me to deal with him. One of the world bodies dissipated and another one condensed. The 9 world bodies attacked the skinny armored warrior fearlessly. The skinny armored warrior, Chao Wu, was also inwardly frustrated. Previously, when Dongbu Shui Ying's team of 4 was ambushed, Dongbu Shui Ying's team had not decided to challenge the blazing blood door. Dongbu Shui Ying's team was suppressed, and they were unable to display their world deity domain, much less their world bodies. The moment Chao Wu acted, he discovered that Dongbu Shui Ying had released 9 world bodies, and he instantly felt a headache. I was too careless. It has been too long since I last fought, and I didn't have the chance to observe him properly the last time. Chao Wu thought, however, I still have to win this battle. Oh! Chao Wu erupted. His figure turned blurry once again, and the surrounding space-time distorted. His speed had reached a terrifying level and he forcefully pierced through it. Although there were 9 world bodies surrounding him, he dodged as much as he could, and if he couldn't, he would use his weapon to block. Some of the attacks that didn't affect his speed too much, he would use his body to block. Dongbu Shui Ying's weapon couldn't hurt him at all. At this moment he only had one goal, Dongbu Shui Ying's true body. "Want to kill me? The world is me and I am the world. Within this world I am everywhere." Dongbu Shui Ying smiled, and in an instant he was already 600,000 kilometers away. No matter how fast Chao Wu's shuttling speed was, he couldn't do anything against Dongbu Shui Ying's instantaneous disappearance. Among the spectating blood-armored warriors, that enchanting woman laughed, "Little doll, don't keep hiding. You have to make Chao Wu admit defeat, or blast him out of the blazing blood door to win. If you keep hiding, it won't be considered a win." Right, hiding isn't considered a win. If you can't win, you will still die in the end. The spectators were still very relaxed. Dongbu Shui Ying heard the voices around him, but he didn't care at all. He was still walking leisurely, displaying his domain-type secret technique, prison, to bind his opponent, and let the 9 world bodies surround him. Even the scarlet cloud spear in Dongbu Shui Ying's hand had yet to move, and he just watched silently, observing his opponent's blade technique. Only by knowing oneself and knowing one's enemy could one have a higher chance of winning. The one called Chao Wu was furious and wanted to attack again and again, but he couldn't even get close to him, and was even forced to fight with the world bodies. And that's it. Dongbu Shui Ying watched for a full time, and his original body in the distant Xia people's world, Crimson Rock Mountain, was also constantly comprehending and calculating under the time acceleration of 100 times. Finally he had a plan in mind. Oh! The scarlet cloud spear in his hand suddenly drew a strange arc, and instantly pierced forward. Chapter 550. When Dongbu Shui Ying struck with his spear, the other 9 world bodies also struck with their spears. The first spear was ordinary, but its power began to accumulate. That skinny armored warrior was a little excited because Dongbu Shui Ying's real body had finally struck with his spear. If he had to keep hiding like this, he would also feel aggrieved. The second spear, the surrounding space began to distort. This spear began to alert the skinny armored warrior, Chao Wu. Something was wrong. The third spear. Boom. 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 It was as if 10 dazzling sun stars had appeared in front of him. Chao Wu's eyes could no longer see. He could only rely on the laws of profound mysteries to sense the surroundings and lock onto the 10 spears. At the same time he felt a strong sense of threat. This was the most overbearing and ruthless move that Dongbu Shui Ying had ever made. The group of blood-armored warriors who were watching from the side were a little surprised. This was the secret skill destruction that he had learned from the ancient array of the Lake Heart Island. After accumulating power for 2 spears, the power of the third spear was indeed very strong. The scarlet cloud spear slashed over. The so-called secret skill destruction was a spear art. It was an application of the laws of profound mysteries. It did not have a fixed style and could be used to stab, chop, sweep, or drill. As for the other 9 world bodies, they used their secret skill, destruction, to attack Chao Wu from all directions, either stabbing or sweeping. Not good. Chao Wu's expression changed. When the third spear burst out, the dagger would be revealed. He knew that it was too late now. He tried his best to use his body and saber art to block the attack. Pooh. Ping. Chi. In an instant the spears all came over. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Dongbu Shui Ying had already seen through Chao Wu's saber art. Bang. The last one was the scarlet cloud spear. The spear shaft was surrounded by absolute darkness, surrounded by a crazy burst of power, surging and whipping the body of Chao Wu, who was already unstable after being attacked by the 9 spears. He could not help but be whipped into a stream of light and flew backward, although he tried his best to stop. But this most violent move had perfectly lashed onto his body. The power was too strong. He was sent flying out of the range of the red light, and he even slammed into the wall of the mountain, shattering countless layers of ice before he could regain his balance. He looked at Dongbo Shuiying, who was standing on the blood-red disc, with an ugly expression on his face. Although he was unharmed, he knew very well that he had lost. Being blasted out of the range of the blazing blood door meant defeat. Not a bad spear technique. This spear technique has already surpassed the realm of a universe deity in the 3rd heaven. In terms of the usage of rules and mysteries, it already has the taste of a universe deity in the 4th heaven. The tall and skinny lady smiled and complimented. It's a very powerful spear. Little brother Chao Wu's loss was not undeserved, the enchanting woman also said. For a stage 3 world deity to have such strength, he is indeed qualified to open the blazing blood door. The tall and thin woman continued, Foreign cultivator, you've already passed the screening test and can be considered a guest of my Lake Heart Island. This is your gift for passing the test. After saying that, the tall and thin woman flipped her hand and took out a blood-colored talisman. There was only one strange character on the blood-colored talisman. Although he had never seen such a character before, Dongbo Shuiying instantly understood it. Ink. Ink? Dongbo Shuiying was confused. The blood-colored talisman had already flown to Dongbo Shuiying's side. What's the use of this talisman? Dongbo Shuiying asked. It's somewhat useful, I guess. The tall and thin woman said indifferently, You've only passed the screening test, so the reward won't be too high. The more dangers you're able to overcome after opening the blazing blood door, the more treasures you'll get. The skinny Chao Wu by the side humped softly, To you, becoming a guest of my Lake Heart Island is the biggest reward for you. Becoming a guest means that you're no longer an invader, and you won't be attacked by us. You can walk freely in the ordinary area. Only the restricted areas of my Lake Heart Island prohibit you from trespassing. Walk freely in the ordinary area? Dongbo Shuiying was overjoyed. There was actually such a benefit to being a guest. That's great. This was indeed a very useful reward. To him, the dangers that lurked everywhere were the biggest headache he had. Hong Long Long, all of a sudden the blood-colored disc beneath Dongbo Shuiying's feet began to split apart, revealing a terrifying passageway. Dongbo Shuiying felt a bone-deep fear. He hurriedly flew up high and looked down. There was a faint suction force from below, attracting Dongbo Shuiying. After the blood-colored disc split apart, the passageway revealed was a distorted void. However, within this distorted void, there were 18 blood-colored tattoos. Each of these tattoos seemed to contain countless living beings howling. Just by looking at it, Dongbo Shuiying couldn't help but feel fear from the bottom of his heart. He found it hard to breathe and felt as though he was about to kneel down. Even when he was facing his master, the God Emperor, he had never felt such fear. However, this passageway caused Dongbo Shuiying to feel such fear. Stop, stop, stop. Dongbo Shuiying hurriedly said. I give up. I give up. Give up? The tall and skinny woman was startled. You're not going to attempt the blazing blood door? Dongbo Shuiying hurriedly said, The blazing blood door is filled with danger. It shouldn't be something that must be entered, right? I can give up, right? Yes. The tall and skinny woman nodded. With a wave of her hand, the blood-colored disc slowly closed up, sealing the terrifying passageway. You're really smart. With your current strength, you might die at any moment. The tall and skinny woman said. However, when you're stronger, you can still attempt it again. Definitely, definitely. Dongbo Shuiying replied. Although he said so, he didn't dare to be careless. This was a place that the master of Lake Heart Island had specially built to deal with outsiders. Just for the sake of the island's reputation, it would be extremely dangerous inside. It was already extremely difficult for him to pass the screening. How could he still go in and seek death? It would be better to wait until he was stronger. Now that I'm considered a guest of Lake Heart Island, I won't be attacked in the ordinary areas? Dongbo Shuiying asked. Yes. The tall and skinny woman nodded. However, you're not allowed to barge into the restricted areas. Where's the restricted area? Dongbo Shuiying asked. Don't worry. If you barge in unintentionally, you'll be expelled. If you resist, you'll be killed. The tall and skinny woman said. Understood. Dongbo Shuiying smiled. Everyone, I'll be taking my leave first. Just as he was about to turn and leave, Dongbua Shuiying suddenly stopped. Looking at the skinny armored warrior in the distance, he asked, "Brother Chao Wu?" The skinny armored warrior, Chao Wu, was startled. Looking at Dongbua Shuiying, he frowned and asked, "What's the matter? You're a stage 3 world deity?" Dongbua Shuiying asked. "I guess so." Chao Wu frowned and replied. Dongbua Shuiying nodded lightly. When he fought with Chao Wu, he realized that although Chao Wu's blade technique was very strong, he was only a stage 3 world deity. It was only because of his invincible defense, great strength, and extremely fast speed that he was able to fight on par with him. These armored warriors, be it the black armored monsters or the blood armored warriors, all of them have invincible defense. Dongbua Shuiying thought to himself, "I guess it's the Lake Heart Island's doing." At the same time he flew far away. As for the black armored monsters that were originally blocking the entrance of the mountain, they left one by one. As soon as they came into contact with the mountain walls, they would disappear. "You even became a guest of my Lake Heart Island?" The many-legged black armored beast that was originally chasing after Dongbua Shuiying muttered. After that, he too went into the mountain wall and disappeared. Dongbua Shuiying looked at the black armored monsters leaving. He couldn't help but feel better. It was true. These fellows did not attack him anymore. So, Dongbua Shuiying rushed towards the direction of his wife, Jingqiu. "Jingqiu, tell me. Where are you? Don't run around. I'm coming." Dongbua Shuiying immediately sent a message. At the same time he was filled with excitement and confidence. This was the first time he had the confidence to bring his wife away safely. He even had the confidence to save his father-in-law. Chapter 551. In reality, Dongbua Shuiying had only experienced a single battle at the Blazing Blood Door. Snow Eagle. Jingqiu was extremely excited. She thought that she was the only survivor of the team. "I'm here. Where are you?" Dongbua Shuiying transmitted. "I just obtained the True God weapon." Jingqiu transmitted. "All right. Wait for me there. I'll be there soon." Dongbua Shuiying transmitted. "When I parted ways with you earlier, I made a bet and gained something. Now that I'm in the normal areas of the Lake Heart Island, I won't be attacked." So, Dongbua Shuiying advanced at his fastest speed. His journey was smooth and no black armored monsters attacked him. He was worried that his wife, Jingqiu, would be attacked. Fortunately, after a while, Dongbua Shuiying finally saw the cold silver-haired lady in the mask. He heaved a sigh of relief. "Snow Eagle," Jingqiu shouted. Her voice was filled with happiness. "Jingqiu, I'll send you outside," Dongbua Shuiying said. "Find a place to stay at the edge of the Lake Heart Island." Jingqiu was puzzled. Dongbua Shuiying smiled. He explained everything in detail, including the situation at the Blazing Blood Door and the benefits he gained from passing the trial. After Jingqiu heard it, she revealed a look of joy. "Not an intruder? But a guest of the Lake Heart Island. It'll be much safer there." "Yes." Dongbua Shuiying nodded. "Originally, I wasn't confident that I could save your father. But now I'm confident. No matter what, it's all because of the True God weapon. The True God weapon is too precious. We can't lose it. I'll send you outside the Lake Heart Island. You wait there. After that, I'll go receive you alone." Jingqiu thought for a while and nodded in agreement. Logically, she understood that this was the best option. She wouldn't be of any help if she followed. "Let's go then." Dongbua Shuiying waved his hand and kept his wife into his inner world. The inner world of a world deity was extremely huge. It had the ability to receive souls, reconstruct the fleshly body, and many other functions. Even after becoming a powerful existence, once the inner world was completed, it could give birth to life on its own, allowing countless lives to reproduce and live. With that, Dongbua Shuiying began his journey back. For safety's sake, he purposely returned along the original path. After all, this path was even more remote. The Nine-Yang Palace head, withered tree old mother, and other existences would not seal off and investigate such a remote place. Phew. He rushed out of the cave he had entered from. It was covered in frost outside. In the distance there was a boundless layer of water. Dongbua Shuiying waved his hand and Jingqiu appeared beside him. "We came out so easily." Jingqiu looked around and revealed a look of joy. "I was still worried about the dangers on the way back. Previously we met with Monarch Armadillo Jade and the others here, but they've already..." Dongbua Shuiying shook his head lightly. "Fortunately, we're confident that we can leave safely. When the time comes, we can bring back their blood-refined deity weapons and other treasures. That way their losses will be minimized." Alright, Jingqiu, find a place to live in seclusion. Amen. Jingqiu nodded. Passing through the layer of water would take too long, and it would be too dangerous for Jingqiu to do it alone. Naturally, she would find a safe place at the periphery of the island. In the depths of a tall mountain, Jingqiu waved her hand and used her world deity energy to condense an ice house. Her surroundings were also isolated from all probing of laws. The entire Lake Heart Island is incomparably huge. There are only so many powerful existences and Stage 4 world deities here. It's impossible for anyone to pass through here. Even if they do, they won't be able to enter the boundary deity domain. Furthermore, I'm isolated from all probing of laws, so they won't be able to discover me. Alright. Dongbu Shuang waved his hand. He placed the treasures left behind by Monarch Armadillo Jade and the Calamity Stone Essence with his wife. As for the Scarlet Cloud Spear, the ink character token, and the other items, he carried them with him. The Scarlet Cloud Spear was of great help to his strength, and the ink character token was the reward for passing the selection test. Who knows, it might still be useful on the Lake Heart Island. Then I'll head over first. Dongbu Shuang said, hurry up and contact your father. Tell him to rendezvous with me. Jingqiu was somewhat worried. You should be careful. Nine-Yang Palace Head, Withered Tree Old Mother, and the others are definitely using karma to track my father. My father is also using karma to maintain a distance from them. If you were to rendezvous with my father, the moment you return, I'm afraid you'll be in danger. It's fine. In any case, all the important treasures have been left here. Dongbu Shuang smiled. Nine-Yang Palace Head and the others were either powerful existences or Stage 4 world deities who were comparable to powerful existences. Monarch Mo Shui was also comparable to powerful existences. All of them were proficient in karma. By following karma, they could determine each other's approximate location. This was also the reason why it was hard for Nine-Yang Palace Head and the rest to catch Monarch Mo Shui. Because Monarch Mo Shui knew that they were approaching, he forcefully drilled inside. In addition, the directions of the forks in the cavern were not fixed. He could clearly confirm that Monarch Mo Shui was in a certain direction, but following the cavern passageway, he was constantly deviating from the direction. I shall make a move first. Dongbu Shuang laughed as he sped away. Jingqiu watched from afar, her silver hair fluttering in the wind. Her heart was filled with anticipation. She hoped that this time her husband could successfully bring her father out. The black-robed, white-haired, white-bearded old man was casually sitting on a protruding ice boulder. Through karma senses, he could sense that there were many karmic threads in the void that connected to different directions. One of the thicker karmic threads was extending to a region 1 billion kilometers away. However, that region was a chaotic mess and he could not sense it carefully. Monarch Mo Shui was very clear the reason why it was a piece of primal chaos was because that region isolated all law probing. Wanna chase me? I have cultivated for many years and am proficient in karma techniques. The layout of the Lake Heart Island is also very mysterious. Wanna chase me? Monarch Mo Shui sneered, then looked around. Surrounding him was an empty mountainside, and there were a total of 8 caves leading to different directions. Monarch Mo Shui revealed a smile. I, Mo Shui, have never been so deep into the Lake Heart Island. In the information he obtained, there was not a single record. Because it was too deep. This kind of place, most likely only those at the level of the 3 ancestors or even true god rulers, dared to enter. Monarch Mo Shui was also fleeing for his life, so he did not care, madly drilling. Father. Jingqiu's transmission. Monarch Mo Shui immediately revealed a look of joy. He was most happy that his eldest daughter had actually succeeded in reincarnating, awakening her memories, and even becoming a Stage 4 world deity. This made Monarch Mo Shui incomparably gratified. Even if he died, he would have no regrets. What made him even more happy was that his daughter in her previous life simply did not fancy men. After reincarnating, before she had even become a god, she had already married a young fellow from the material realm, the mortal world. Moreover, this young fellow had extremely high talent, and was directly taken in as a personal disciple by Blood Blade. He was happy, and felt that even if he died, there was nothing to worry about. Moreover, he, Monarch Mo Shui, had really lived for far too long, and naturally had long seen through it. Therefore, at the last moment he entered the Lake Heart Island ruins to fight for it. For a true god weapon, even if he had to fall out with Nine-Yang Palace Head, he would not hesitate. As long as he could give this true god weapon to his daughter, that would be too perfect. With a true god weapon, his daughter's hopes of becoming a powerful existence would greatly increase. Moreover, she still had a very powerful husband, and he believed that in the future she would definitely surpass him, this father, and truly transcend, becoming a powerful existence. Good daughter, what's the matter? Monarch Mo Shui was in a relaxed mood as he chatted with his daughter. Father, I have already obtained the true god weapon, and am currently safely waiting outside the Lake Heart Island. Jianghu transmitted. Monarch Mo Shui was immediately surprised and happy. She actually succeeded? Snow Eagle is currently inside the Lake Heart Island, and wants to receive you, father. Tell me the approximate geographical location so that I can tell Snow Eagle. Jianghu said. He's coming to receive me? Monarch Mo Shui frowned and immediately transmitted, Good daughter, don't waste your energy. I am currently in the extreme depths of the Lake Heart Island, and it is too dangerous for Dongbu Shuiying. You two dolls should stop tormenting yourself and quickly leave with your husband. Chapter 552. Father, since Snow Eagle and I came, we didn't care about the danger. Furthermore, the two of us are just clones, so you don't have to worry about us. Jianghu transmitted. Furthermore, we've also discovered a place called the Blazing Blood Gate. Jianghu explained everything in detail. This was also permitted by Dongbu Shuiying. There was no need to hide it from his father-in-law. If I pass the screening, I won't be attacked in the normal areas. If I accidentally trespass into the restricted areas, I'll just be chased away? Only resisting will one be killed? Monarch Mo Shui was startled, and immediately understood how important this guest's identity was. All right. Monarch Mo Shui's heart also had a desire to live. With the help of her son-in-law, she might really be able to escape and reincarnate. Daughter, I'm too deep into the island. I can only use karma to determine my approximate location. Moreover, when I was fleeing, I even entered some extremely dangerous places and narrowly escaped death to reach here. It's impossible for Shuiying to follow the same route as me. Monarch Mo Shui transmitted. The main reason was that Nanyang Palace head and the others were chasing too ruthlessly at the start. Monarch Mo Shui would rush to wherever the danger was. Nanyang Palace head and the others did not dare to gamble with their lives. Father, tell me the location first, Jianghu transmitted. Traversing through the depths of the Lake Heart Island, Dongbu Shuiying was extremely relaxed. He did not encounter any ambushes at all. This feeling is truly exhilarating. Dongbu Shuiying smiled. If not for Monarch Armadillo Jade, he and Jianghu would not have been able to reach the place where the true god weapon was hidden. That was already a relatively safe region that Monarch Mo Shui had deliberately placed. Dongbu Shuiying received a map from his wife. So deep. Dongbu Shuiying frowned. The straight-line distance between Monarch Mo Shui and the periphery of Lake Heart Island exceeded 200 billion li. This was purely a straight-line distance, and the layout of the island in the center of the lake was mysterious, so in reality, one would have to take a long detour. Take your time. Because he was very safe, Dongbu Shuiying could use the simplest method, which was to continuously approach Monarch Mo Shui's position. If one path couldn't be taken, he would change to another. Time flew by. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. This time Dongbu Shuiying had ventured more than 100 times deeper than when he first came in, but there was not a single battle. This is really strange. Dongbu Shuiying looked ahead. At the end of the tunnel was a spatial whirlpool. Dongbu Shuiying did not have the confidence to enter recklessly. Nobody knew where he would be teleported to if he entered. Clearly, this was some kind of spatial passageway and it definitely led somewhere. Turn around. Dongbu Shuiying did not hesitate to turn around and head back, following a fork in the road that he had discovered earlier. The interior of the island was simply too vast. The Stage 4 world deities and powerful existences that came from the deity world and Dark Abyss were too rare, so Dongbu Shuiying had yet to meet a single one. However, after passing through so many places, he had also recorded down a very detailed map. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Even though Dongbu Shuiying often took detours because he had always been flying at his fastest speed, he would avoid some of the dangerous and unique places. Therefore, he had always been traveling in the ordinary regions, and did not meet with any trouble. In this month, the distance between him and Monarch Mo Shui had shrunk to 50 billion miles. Within the pitch-black passageway, Dongbu Shuiying was flying at high speed. Even though the passageway was covered in a thick layer of ice, one could see the black material deep within the ice. Ping! Dongbu Shuiying waved his hand, and a white stream of light shot out, shattering a large piece of the ice layer, revealing the gloomy black walls. The black walls had simple and unadorned veined patterns, yet they had a strange charm to them. The deeper I go into the island, the more I can see some buildings. Dongbo Shuang thought. Currently these buildings were all sealed in ice. What is that? Dongbo Shuang suddenly stopped, turning his head to look at the ice layer behind him. Within that thick layer of ice, a figure was faintly discernible, sitting cross-legged there. No armor? Sitting cross-legged? Dongbo Shuang stood in midair looking through the ice layer carefully. The ice layer was very thick, and there was a man wearing a gray robe sitting cross-legged, yet he was completely frozen. I have been here for more than a month, and can be considered to have entered the depths of the island, and have seen many things. But those ice sculptures are all wearing armor. Dongbo Shuang thought, this is the first one without armor. Dongbo Shuang had an urge to study it. Who cares? Even if this gray-robed man is really a powerful character within the Lake Heart Island, I have unintentionally disturbed him. I didn't mean to disturb him. I'm a guest so he probably won't kill me. Dongbo Shuang made up his mind, and with a wave of his hand, countless white radiance shot out from his fingertips, directly smashing through the ice layer. Wah wah wah, large pieces of ice layer crumbled. The 100-meter thick ice layer was completely torn apart, and the luminous sun force did not injure the gray-robed man in the slightest. Instead, the ice layer around him was completely shattered, revealing the appearance of the gray-robed man. He sat cross-legged and did not emit any aura. Dead. Dongbo Shuang sensed it and was immediately certain. Even his true deity heart is gone. Dongbo Shuang controlled a strand of luminous sun force to seep into the corpse of the gray-robed man. It was indeed empty, but this corpse caused Dongbo Shuang's expression to change. Because when the luminous sun force seeped into the corpse through his nostrils, he discovered that this corpse's muscles, bones, and even organs were terrifyingly strong. This is definitely a powerful existence, and a powerful existence that had cultivated his body to an extremely high realm. Dongbo Shuang thought. But who is he? Dongbo Shuang observed carefully. From the aura of his body he should be a powerful existence from the deity world, and not the dark abyss. I should know all the powerful existences in the history of the deity world, including those who have died. But I don't know him. Dongbo Shuang frowned as he observed this gray-robed man in front of him. An unfamiliar powerful existence, one that had never been recorded in the history of the deity world. However, the historical records of the deity world aren't safe. For example, the owner of the Lake Heart Island wasn't recorded either. Dongbo Shuang guessed. Dongbo Shuang's gaze landed on the wrist of the gray-robed man. There was a scarlet-red wristband on his wrist. With a wave of his hand, the scarlet-red wristband flew towards him. This was the only treasure on the gray-robed man's corpse other than his robes. Dongbo Shuang would not go as far as to strip the clothes of a dead cultivator, even if the clothes were of the peak-grade world deity rank. The scarlet-red wristband was a storage treasure, and it was a unique world deity weapon that could be used in battle. Interesting. Even though it is a world deity weapon, it seems to be very powerful. Dongbo Shuang's expression changed. When he refined the scarlet-red wristband, he immediately discovered the ancient array within the wristband. The vast array was dark and unfathomable, causing Dongbo Shuang's heart to palpitate. Within the array there was a fixed spacetime. This is a weapon that can seal the enemy into a spacetime. As long as this weapon is activated, the enemy will be sucked into this spacetime. The profound mysteries within this weapon, who forged it? I feel that even the Eden treasure, Crimson Rock Mountain, is inferior to it. Dongbo Shuang frowned. Moreover, I can't even identify the corpse of this gray-robed man. Forget it. Since he couldn't figure it out, he could only put it aside for now. No matter what, this mysterious gray-robed man had been dead for an unknown period of time. Moreover, he was buried deep within the Lake Heart Island. There are still some items within. Perhaps I can find out his identity from these items. Dongbo Shuang sent his consciousness into the wristband. The spacetime within the wristband was separated into close to 100 layers. One of the layers was used to store items. Chapter 553. Dongbo Shuang took out 4 items from the wristband. They were the more unique items in the wristband. The others were common items like god crystals. The 4 items were an axe, a sharp shard, a long black whip and a golden book. The axe and the long whip are both world deity grade weapons. Moreover, their forging techniques are very similar. Dongbo Shuang inspected them and discovered that the divine imprints on the axe and the long whip were ancient and unique. Before coming to Lake Heart Island, he had never seen such a style. Strictly speaking, they were similar to the scarlet wristband as they both had the charm of time and space. The axe, the long whip and the scarlet wristband. The person who forged them must be very proficient in time and space. In the entire deity world and abyss, the person who is most proficient in time and space would be the Temporal Island Lord. Dongbo Shuang thought about it carefully. However, he was still unable to guess the identity of the corpse of the gray-robed man. It was as though he was a powerful existence that appeared out of nowhere. He casually picked up a sharp shard and touched it. The shard was dark red in color and there were ancient patterns on it. It emitted a vast and tranquil aura, causing Dongbo Shuang to feel calm. It's not an ordinary item. However, I can't tell its usage. Moreover, it's only a shard. Could it be a shard of a true god weapon? Dongbo Shuang guessed. He then placed the shard aside and looked at the last item. Dongbo Shuang took the thick golden book and flipped through it. There were many ancient words written on it. Hong, a huge amount of information surged into his mind. Paragon Dust Cloud. The scarlet wristband, axe and long whip are weapons that I forged myself. However, due to the limited materials, they are only world deity weapons. As for the shard, I obtained it by chance. Until now, I have yet to discover its usage. These are my gifts to the future one. I, Dust Cloud, have been cultivating bitterly for a long time. I do not have many treasures. Please forgive me. The reason why I'm giving these to you is because I have a request. If the future one is able to meet Paragon Qingyun in the future, please give this book to him. If you can't meet him, then forget it. Qingyuan, I've done what you asked of me. It's a pity that I still underestimated the dangers of the Lake Heart Island. I didn't have the chance to meet you again. What a pity. In just a few sentences, what followed were extremely complicated array diagrams. There were a total of 325 array diagrams, and each one of them was extremely profound. Dongbo Shuang took the book in his hand and remained silent. He could feel the regret in the message left by the dead man. It was left before he died. Lord Dust Cloud? Honorable Qingyuan? Could it be a venerable? Dongbo Shuang pondered. When he had been with Monarch Armadillo Jade and the others, he had learned that major powers were also referred to as true gods, and that they could be roughly divided into 3 levels. Ordinary true gods, true god paragons, and true god rulers. His master, the Temporal Island Lord, and the others were all dominator rank existences. There aren't many paragons in the entire deity world and abyss, but why haven't I heard of the 2 of them? Dongbo Shuang thought to himself. And could it be that this Paragon Dust Cloud didn't have a communication technique? Why did he leave a message on the book before he died? Most communication techniques were through communication. One could even use karma to communicate across countless worlds. Leaving a message on a book like this was a very unique thing. After studying it for a moment, he kept it. Dongbo Shuang looked at the corpse of the gray-robed man who was sitting cross-legged in front of him with a serene expression. He immediately stretched out his hand, and the power of the heavens and the earth rapidly condensed into soil and rocks. The soil and rocks completely enveloped the corpse of the gray-robed man. Since he was dead, then let him rest in peace. Such an expert should have a clone. But he died here and even left a message. His true body and clone should have been destroyed. Dongbo Shuang looked at the graves in front of him and thought to himself, Lake Heart Island is indeed one of the top ancient ruins in the entire deity world and abyss. The level of danger here far exceeds my imagination. I'm afraid there are techniques to kill clones and true bodies. For example, when Blood Blade killed a powerful existence, he could use karma to transmit his attack to the other body of the powerful existence, killing him directly. This meant that he could hide in the material realm. The laws of the material realm protected the native living beings. The stronger the power of the expert, the more they would be repelled. Even someone as strong as a ruler could only kill a stage 3 world deity with the help of an oath. Without the oath, he could only kill a stage 2 world deity. One must know that in the deity world and abyss, Blood Blade and the others could easily kill ordinary powerful existences. From this, one could see how powerful the laws of the material realm were. The danger of the Lake Heart Island relic is probably even greater than that of my master and the others. I must not be careless. Dongbo Shuang pondered. Be respectful. The protection of the material realm is not omnipotent. It was because when he saw Emperor Heavenly Cloud's corpse, he saw a huge array formed by hundreds of millions of meteorites. That huge array gave Dongbo Shuang a feeling that it was not inferior to the material world's law. Thus, Dongbo Shuang felt that the protection of the material world was not absolute. Fortunately, I'm a guest of Lake Heart Island. As long as they don't deliberately seek death, they won't be so unlucky. Dongbo Shuang looked at the graves. I'm not fated to meet you again. What a pity. Dongbu Shuang muttered in his heart, I wonder if these two reverends are Tao companions or relatives. The path of cultivation has never been easy. While there might be benefits to exploring the ruins, there are also dangers. Dongbu Shuang sighed. An existence that was suspected to be at the level of a real god venerable had died here. South Dongbu Shuang continued to move forward. As the distance between them and Monarch Mo Shui got closer and closer, Dongbu Shuang also began to communicate with Monarch Mo Shui through his wife Jing Qiu. Monarch Mo Shui did not always stay in the same place. He also had to avoid being killed, so he was constantly moving. However, because they were extremely deep, there were many dangers, so the distance they were moving was still very little. 30 billion li, 10 billion li, 5 billion li, 1 billion li. The distance between the two was getting closer and closer. I've gone the wrong way, this is a dead end. He clearly knew that the distance was getting closer, but there were many obstacles in the surroundings, so he had to go around for a long time. No rush, no rush. Monarch Mo Shui was currently standing on an empty plaza. The entire plaza was sealed in ice. He looked from afar and waited. At the same time, he was constantly sensing the distance between Nanyang Palace Head and the others. He was avoiding Nanyang Palace Head and the others, and at the same time he was deliberately getting closer to Dongbu Shuang. Monarch Mo Shui's eyes lit up. He saw a stream of light streaking across the sky in the distance. Following that, it landed on the plaza. It was precisely the black-robed young man with some frost on his body. Monarch Mo Shui stroked his snow-white beard and could not help but grin. Back then, he had seen Dongbu Shuang participate in the myriad flower feast. It was just that at that time Dongbu Shuang was still just a god level. But now, he already possessed the battle power of a stage 4 world deity. Good son-in-law. Monarch Mo Shui laughed and shouted. His voice was vigorous, reverberating in the surrounding plaza. He was very happy. Dongbu Shuang also saluted at once. Snow Eagle pays his respects to father-in-law. Chapter 554. The more Monarch Mo Shui looked at Dongbu Shuang, the more he liked him. He didn't have long to live, how could he not be happy to have such a son-in-law? Snow Eagle. Monarch Mo Shui chuckled. Back in the Kamsi prefecture, I already knew that you were my son-in-law. At that time, although I was happy that my daughter had successfully reincarnated, happy that there was finally someone who wanted to marry my eldest daughter who had always troubled me. But it was just a god-level kid, I was still somewhat dissatisfied. But seeing that your potential wasn't bad, it was still passable, so I didn't care. After all, my daughter's matter isn't something I can decide. Monarch Mo Shui beamed. Dongbu Shuang helplessly said, Father-in-law, you and Jing Qiu both hid it from me. I was puzzled at that time, why did Monarch Mo Shui think so highly of me? Ha ha ha. Monarch Mo Shui laughed loudly. He then said, Snow Eagle, now that we are in the depths of Lake Heart Island, there are many dangers. It will be very hard for Nanyang Palace Head and the rest to catch me. But once we return, the further we go out, the lower the danger in the outer regions to Nanyang Palace Head and the rest, it is not worth mentioning. They have joined hands to surround me and have some cloning techniques. Wanting to escape from their encirclement, the hope is very low. Dongbu Shuang said, Father-in-law, I and Jing Qiu have thought it through. No matter how low the hope is, we have to give it a shot. If we continue to stay in the depths of Lake Heart Island, after a long time, I'm afraid we will only be waiting for death. Only by escaping, leaving the range of the rules of Lake Heart Island, can father-in-law reincarnate. Jing Qiu was able to reincarnate successfully. Father-in-law, you completely have hope of reincarnating successfully too. Monarch Mo Shui nodded with a smile. I understand, you don't have to say too much. There is indeed some hope of success. But my daughter succeeded, it doesn't mean I can do it too. The hope is still relatively low. Now that you and I rush out together, I'm afraid that we won't be able to escape. Your identity will also be discovered by Nanyang Palace Head and the rest, thus forming a grudge. I'm not afraid, father-in-law. Why are you afraid of this and that? Dongbu Shuang said. Monarch Mo Shui was startled, then immediately nodded. All right, then I'll have to trouble Snow Eagle. When he thought about how Dongbu Shuang was the lord of the material realm and also the personal disciple of God Emperor, he knew that he would be able to handle this kind of trouble. I've already ascertained the route before I came here. It's the smoothest route. Dongbu Shuang said. All right, you point the way, we'll take a gamble. Monarch Mo Shui said. Whoosh. The two of them immediately turned into streams of light and flew away at high speed. Monarch Mo Shui released his energy, bringing along Dongbu Shuang. The two's speed soared to 600,000 miles per second. Clearly, this old fellow who had cultivated for countless years and was comparable to powerful existences, was also extremely proficient in the aspect of speed. In the icy corridor, the cold youth stood with his hands clasped behind his back, sensing Monarch Mo Shue's position through karma. Monarch Mo Shue also used a treasure to isolate all karmic probing, causing the probing to only be able to lock onto one region. That region was hazy and indistinct, unable to probe clearly inside. I miscalculated. If I knew that Monarch Mo Shue wasn't afraid of death, I wouldn't have brought him along. The cold youth shook his head. Back then he had brought along a few companions. He was the leader of the team. After all, his strength was the strongest. As the personal disciple of the Temporal Island Lord, he was already rather dazzling when he was a world deity. Now his strength was even more profound. Who would have thought that after Monarch Mo Shue discovered the true god weapon, he would immediately flee with it, not caring about him, the leader of the team. True god weapon. As long as I obtain the true god weapon, completely refine it and diligently experience it day and night, I will open up my own path. The hope of stepping into the Paragon realm will greatly increase. The cold youth's eyes were filled with unwillingness. Whoever blocks my path, kill. He was truly filled with killing intent. The cold youth Nine Young Palace head suddenly turned his head to look in a direction. He's moving at high speed? Even though Monarch Mo Shue intentionally controlled the isolated region, trying his best to disguise it, following his high-speed flight, the isolated region would ultimately still move along with him. What is he preparing to do? Nine Young Palace head was not in a hurry to act, because he was not sure if Monarch Mo Shue was going to escape or go deeper. After Monarch Mo Shue flew for the time taken to brew a cup of tea, Nine Young Palace head was completely sure. His eyes revealed a trace of coldness. This Mo Shue, he really is escaping. Does he think he can escape? So, Nine Young Palace head also moved. At another fork in the road, the old granny leaning on a wooden walking stick also contacted Nine Young Palace head. All right, Palace head can be at ease. Leave this matter to this old granny, I will definitely help. Her hair rapidly grew longer, transforming into grayish-brown tree roots. The grayish-brown tree roots directly broke apart, transforming into gray-robed old granny. There was a total of 9 clones. So. The 9 clones rapidly followed the fork and began to disperse, heading to block the way. This was a method possessed by Withered Tree Old Mother's innate talent. Even if she was suppressed in the Lakeheart Island, she could still create clones. Her cloning method was also what Nine Young Palace head relied on to capture Monarch Mo Shue. What's going on? He escaped so quickly. Along the way he didn't seem to slow down at all. Could it be that he wasn't attacked? Nine Young Palace head and the rest immediately discovered where the problem lay. Listen to my orders, use all your strength to rush towards the periphery of the Lakeheart Island. We will block the way from the periphery. Nine Young Palace head transmitted his orders. Emperor Prison Dragon had a life and death friendship with him, and Withered Tree Old Mother also agreed to help him. As for Red Transient Empress and Zhe Nua Sovereign, they didn't have the guts to go against him. Not everyone was as daring as Monarch Mo Shue. All right. Understood. Since each of them had chased to the depths of the Lakeheart Island, they would now follow the original path and return, avoiding some unnecessary detours. In an instant their speed was extremely fast. Like Nine Young Palace head and Emperor Prison Dragon, their speed was even faster than Monarch Mo Shue. The moment they no longer cared about Monarch Mo Shue and wholeheartedly rushed towards the periphery, they very quickly rushed to the front. This is troublesome. Dongbu Shuiying and Monarch Mo Shue also knew that things weren't good. No matter what, they still had to leave through the outermost exit. There are many exits and forks, let's take a gamble. Dongbu Shuiying and Monarch Mo Shue had no other choice. Time passed. Ever since they met up with Monarch Mo Shue, a month had passed in the blink of an eye. Dongbu Shuiying and the rest were already not far from the exit, and estimated that they would be able to leave within 2 to 3 days. But at this time, it was even more dangerous, because Nine Young Palace head and the rest had already begun to frantically block the surroundings. South, inside the serene and deep cave passage, Dongbu Shuiying and Monarch Mo Shue were currently transforming into flowing lights as they flew. They are closing in from all directions. Monarch Mo Shue was somewhat anxious. We must hurry and change our route. Change. Dongbu Shuiying also said. Right now he no longer pointed the way because he was forced to run randomly, and it was no longer a road he was familiar with. His only use was his identity as a guest, allowing him to bring Monarch Mo Shui along to avoid being ambushed. Change route. Change route again. Change. Just. They can't escape. Nanyang Palace head also went all out at this time. They could feel that Monarch Mo Shui and the rest were about to be intercepted. Monarch Mo Shui had been running with all his might. But the more he ran, the more the encirclement around him was shrinking, causing Monarch Mo Shui to feel more and more despair. We can't escape anymore. Monarch Mo Shui sighed. Actually, I also know that Nanyang Palace head and the rest are going all out to surround me. If I want to escape, the chances are slim. Snow Eagle, you go. Don't bother about me. If you continue to follow me, you will be implicated by me. Lord Father-in-law, don't give up. I still have another way. Dongbu Shuang said. You have a way? Monarch Mo Shui looked at Dongbu Shuang in shock. Previously, Dongbu Shuang had always been following him, allowing Monarch Mo Shui to change his route time and time again. Let's try. Dongbu Shuang said, Lord Father-in-law, you better not resist. Saying that, he waved his hand, keeping Monarch Mo Shui into his own inner world. Dongbu Shuang then quickly returned to a place not far away by himself. Very quickly, he saw a dark spatial whirlpool in the distance. He walked to the side of the spatial whirlpool and sat down cross-legged. They are nearing. Monarch Mo Shui was still informing Dongbu Shuang within his inner world. Merely a moment later. A figure flew over from a distant dark cave passage, passing by this corner, and saw the Dongbu Shuang who was sitting cross-legged on the ground. Dongbu Shuang? The person who came was a cold youth. Dongbu Shuang raised his head and stood up. Greetings, Nanyang Palace head. The cold youth nodded slightly, with a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. Towards this Dongbu Shuang he had a very good impression. He laughed. Previously I was a little curious. Chihua Laozu had merely sent an incarnation into the world of the Xia people, so how could he have saved your wife? I asked Chihua Laozu and he told me that it was you who offered half of your soul to your wife. Amen? Dongbu Shuang nodded. Your war with the Xia people was so difficult. I believe that when the war ended, you should not have grasped hold of a grade 1 true meaning. The cold youth guessed, if you had a grade 1 true meaning, saving your wife would not have been so difficult. Yes. Dongbu Shuang felt strange. This Nanyang Palace head actually understood him so well. For the sake of your wife you gave up half of your soul. At that time, you were not even a grade 1 true meaning transcendent. This has the danger of severing your path of cultivation. The cold youth smiled and nodded, you really have some guts. Even though I like you more, this involves a true god weapon. Whoever obstructs me I will kill them. Thus, I hope that you do not help Monarch Mo Shui because you cannot help him. So from another direction, a black dragon flew over. Its speed was extremely fast and when it landed, it turned into a tall and big man in black armor. How is it? Have you found Monarch Mo Shui in the surrounding area? The cold youth asked. No. The black-armored man, Emperor Prison Dragon, replied. The cold youth immediately looked at Dongbu Shuang, his eyes filled with a hint of sharpness. He coldly said, the isolated area is only so big, and there are no other living beings in this area except for you. Furthermore, through karma, I can deduce that Monarch Mo Shui is also in the surrounding area. He has no other place to escape to. I'm afraid he is in your Eden treasure or your inner world. Dongbu Shuang, for the sake of Monarch Mo Shui, going against me is not worth it. The cold youth said, we can be friends and not enemies. Dongbu Shuang looked at him, there are some things that can't be helped. So, he directly scurried into a spatial whirlpool, disappearing within it. The cold youth's expression changed. Spatial whirlpools usually lead to more important or dangerous places. He frowned, just a single guidance and you are willing to risk your life to help Mo Shui? So, this was the first time Shuang had entered a spatial maelstrom within the Lake Heart Island. This was also the only method he felt he could use. After all, he was a guest, and even if he barged into a restricted area, he would not be killed immediately. He felt the surrounding space change. Suddenly, a vast land appeared in front of his eyes. Landing on this vast land, he raised his head. In the distance, there was a golden armored giant that was as huge as a mountain sitting cross-legged. This majestic golden armored giant also opened his eyes and looked over. Dongbu Shuang felt a little awkward and hurriedly said, I accidentally trespassed. May I ask where this place is? End of this chapter. Star. Chapter 555. The golden-armored giant that was like a mountain looked downwards. His face looked like it was chiseled by an axe. His eyes were calm and his lips were slightly thick. It was just that the invisible pressure he was emitting made Dongbo Shuiying feel pressured. He is much stronger than Chihua Laozu and Monarch Emo Shui. I feel that Nine Yang Palace Head is only close to him. Dongbo Shuiying thought. Nine Yang Palace Head was a powerful existence and also the personal disciple of the Temporal Island Lord. Why was he able to make Emperor Prison Dragon and Withered Tree Old Mother listen to his orders? It was because his strength was far above ordinary powerful existences. Even though he wasn't at the Paragon realm, his battle prowess was very close. That towering golden-armored giant looked over and said, "This is the destruction paradise. It isn't a place you can barge into." "You actually dare to barge into the destruction paradise?" A black shadow suddenly appeared on the shoulder of this huge golden-armored giant. The black shadow instantly streaked across the sky and pounced towards Dongbo Shuiying. Dongbo Shuiying was shocked. With a single glance, he could clearly see that the black shadow that was pouncing over was a skinny ape. He was wearing black armor and wielding a deep purple long rod. He flew over from afar and waved his long rod. The long rod rapidly expanded as though it was spanning across the heaven and earth. The deep purple long rod brought with it a might that caused Dongbo Shuiying's heart to palpitate as it smashed towards his head. "I'm a guest. Even if I barge in, I should be chased away. Why are you attacking me directly?" Dongbo Shuiying's heart was in a daze. However, he didn't hesitate as he hurriedly executed his scarlet cloud spear to block this rod. "I don't have any ill intentions." Dongbo Shuiying transmitted his voice to explain. The deep purple long rod swept across the heaven and earth, sweeping against Dongbo Shuiying's long spear. Dongbo Shuiying could only feel a majestic force rushing towards him. He cultivated the luminous sun absolute art, which was known for its great strength. But when he faced against this deep purple long rod, he felt like an ant trying to shake a tree. He was instantly suppressed. Swoosh! Shuiying's hands had been whipped to the point where their bones were twisted. The spear had been whipped directly against his chest, causing it to cave in. Shuiying spurted out a mouthful of fresh blood, and his entire body was sent flying back at high speed. He only stopped after flying a few 100,000 kilometers away. The gap is too big. Dongbo Shuiying's expression changed. He had met many opponents, including the blood-armored warriors and black-armored monsters from the Blazing Blood Gate, but none of them gave him such a feeling. The huge gap between them caused Dongbo Shuiying to be unable to retaliate at all. Because no matter how much he resisted, he would still be trampled on. Fortunately, he doesn't have the intention to kill me. Even though that club smashed down just now, it didn't destroy my body. It only sent me flying back for hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Dongbo Shuiying thought to himself. If the other party had the intention to kill him, his body would most likely explode in an instant. Every single particle of his body would be annihilated, and he would be deader than dead. He would be killed in one move. This was the difference between the two sides. "Elder." Dongbo Shuiying sent a telepathic message over. The ape let out a strange cry and once again swung its deep purple rod at him. Dongbo Shuiying barely managed to raise his spear, but he was slapped so hard that he spat out a mouthful of blood and turned into a streak of light. Halfway through his flight, the ape swung his rod at him again. Pung pung ping pung. The ape lashed out with his rod in a frenzy, causing Dongbo Shuiying to turn into streaks of light as he spat out fresh blood. Finally, the ape flew to a high altitude and slammed his rod down. The tip of the rod directly struck Dongbo Shuiying's chest, causing Dongbo Shuiying's chest to cave in. His expression changed drastically, and he plummeted down once again, slamming heavily into the ground, creating a circular crater as shockwaves spread out in all directions. Cough 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 cough. Dongbo Shuiying was also filled with grief and indignation. His body was rapidly recovering, but he looked helplessly at the ape descending from the sky. The difference between them was so huge. He could have killed him in one move, but instead of killing him, he continued to trample on him. "Snow Eagle, this ape has yet to kill you. He is probably just toying with you." Monarch Emo Shui stood in the desert of the inner world, raising his head and saying, "He is extremely strong. Even if I were to go out, I would not be his match." "I know." Dongbo Shuiying's voice reverberated in the inner world, replying to his father-in-law. He naturally understood. He had already experienced the strength of his father-in-law during the attack on the Lake Heart Island. How could he be as strong as this ape? The black-armored ape carried the deep purple rod and looked at Dongbo Shuiying with a smile that was not a smile. Brat, this is the destruction paradise. You actually dared to barge into my destruction paradise. I will first hit you a few times to teach you a lesson. Why are you unhappy? Dongbo Shuiying could only maintain the smile on his face. He had no choice but to lower his head. Furthermore, he could see that the other party did not have any killing intent. The huge golden armored giant also stood up and walked over. As he walked over, his body started to shrink, eventually shrinking to a height of 100 meters. But to Dongbo Shuiying and the ape it was still huge. It was just that it was relatively easier to communicate with each other. The golden armored giant said, Black monkey, have you been holding it in for too long that your hands are itching? If your hands are itching, I can satisfy you. No problem, I only need one finger to fight with you. The ape immediately laughed. Leader, how would I dare to fight with you? Leader, you are very smart. I have indeed been holding it in for too long. With my warlike nature, I have not been able to find an opponent. Isn't there an opponent in the destruction paradise? The golden armored giant looked at him disdainfully. The ape laughed and did not say anything. Opponent? Was being trampled called a battle? That was being toyed with. I, the great Lord Black Monkey, loved to trample on others. The feeling of being trampled was terrible. At this moment, the ape felt refreshed. He looked at Dongbo Shuiying with satisfaction. Kid, seeing that you are a guest of my Lake Heart Island, I did not kill you. Otherwise, even if I killed you with a stick, you could only bear with it. Also, when it's about time, I will send you out of the destruction paradise. Wait. Dongbo Shuiying extended his hand to stop the ape. You don't want to leave? Do you want to be beaten? The ape stared. The golden armored giant said, Kid, this is the destruction paradise. It is not a place for outsiders. You should indeed leave. If you insist on staying, I'm afraid you will not be willing to see the consequences. Dongbo Shuiying said, I want to ask if you can send me to the outermost area of the Lake Heart Island, or send me out of the Lake Heart Island. That won't do. The ape shook his head. Our destruction paradise is one of the paradises opened within the Lake Heart Island. The spatial passageways that are connected to the outside world are just those few. The destruction paradise is an extremely important paradise. The spatial passageways are all connected to the interior of the Lake Heart Island. It doesn't connect to the outermost area, nor does it connect to the outside of the Lake Heart Island. Dongbo Shuiying was dumbfounded. Actually, he had also discovered that there were no spatial whirlpools at the outermost area. He was just holding on to a glimmer of hope. If he was only sent to a certain area within the Lake Heart Island, he would still be surrounded by Nanyang Palace Head and the rest. Seniors. Dongbo Shuiying said, honestly speaking, I have a huge enemy outside. If I were to leave, I would most likely lose my life. I wonder if I can hide in this destruction paradise for a while? Or if you have a way for me to leave the Lake Heart Island as soon as possible and escape the pursuit of the enemy. This junior will naturally be extremely grateful. There was no other way. He could only speak honestly. The ape and the golden armored giant exchanged glances. You have an enemy outside? The ape mumbled, but the rules of the destruction paradise cannot be violated. You cannot stay here unless what? Dongbo Shuiying asked. Chapter 556. The monkey chuckled, you are an outsider. Even if you are a guest of my Lake Heart Island, the destruction paradise is not a place you can stay. Unless, you are no longer an outsider but one of us. So kid, as long as you join us, you can stay in the destruction paradise for as long as you want. Join you? Dongbo Shuiying was puzzled. The golden armored giant glanced at the ape and frowned. Joining us will be beneficial to you, but it'll also be troublesome. Furthermore, you can't join us just because you want to. Shuiying felt bewildered and puzzled. Right now he was completely confused. He hurriedly asked, may I know what identity you all represent? What are the benefits and trouble of joining you? Also, how can I join? Oh, the monkey suddenly raised his head and screamed. His screams resounded through the sky and spread across the vast land. There's a newcomer who wants to join us. The monkey screamed loudly and his voice resounded throughout the entire paradise. Dongbo Shuiying sighed. He had just asked and hadn't decided if he wanted to join or not. This monkey was too impatient. So, in the distance, a black-armored, skinny man with a divine sword on his back flew across the sky. On the other side, another black-armored silhouette flew over. Finally, a handsome, golden-armored young man also stepped on the void and came over, his aura soaring into the sky. Some were wearing black armor, some were wearing gold armor. However, Dongbo Shuiying could tell with a single glance that the aura emitted by the golden-armored man was much stronger. In just a short while, 8 black-armored experts and 3 golden-armored experts had gathered around him. Captain Xianya. The 8 black-armored experts were rather respectful, including the monkey. He smiled and bowed obediently. Clearly there was a clear hierarchy. Dongbo Shuiying didn't dare to interrupt. The monkey and the other 8 black-armored experts could probably kill him in a single move. As for the 3 golden-armored captains, they could crush him with a flick of their fingers. The commander is here. The golden-armored giant was the first to speak. The handsome golden-armored youth and the ugly golden-armored elder hurriedly looked over. The 8 black-armored experts also held their breaths and waited. In the distance, a man wearing purple gold armor walked through the air. His eyes were faintly red as if they contained an endless sea of blood. He also wore a black cloak that fluttered in the wind, but it had the power to freeze the space around him. The purple golden-armored man walked over just like that. The surrounding world was being suppressed and Shuiying found it hard to breathe. Even his vision was turning dark and blurry, and the energy in his body was starting to go out of control. This made him come to a conclusion: too powerful. The third ancestor is absolutely not any weaker than the third ancestor. The Overlord of Destruction, Pang Yi, and Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master. The feeling this purple golden-armored man gave him wasn't as deep and boundless as his master's blood blade. However, he had already surpassed the 9 Yang Palace head and the others. He was definitely not inferior to the third ancestor. Commander. The 3 golden-armored captains and the 8 black-armored experts all bowed respectfully. The only purple golden-armored man landed on the ground. His gaze landed on Dongbo Shuiying. He nodded lightly, just a stage 3 world deity. However, you are still quite young. Dongbo Shuiying muttered to himself. Quite young? Looking at the aura of his soul, including the time spent in time acceleration, he had only lived for more than 1,000,000 years. In front of this commander, it wasn't even worth mentioning. Brat. The golden-armored ugly elder's eyelids drooped. He looked at Dongbo Shuiying in a half-asleep manner. Don't be arrogant just because you have a bit of talent. Which of the people standing in front of you isn't talented? All of them are stage 4 world deities who can join the army. Stage 4 world deities? Dongbo Shuiying was stunned. The golden-armored ugly elder swept his gaze across the surroundings. The black-armored experts all had different expressions. The golden-armored ugly elder still said, yes, stage 4 world deities. We are only stage 4 world deities. What? How is this possible? Dongbo Shuiying looked at the existences in front of him. He especially looked at the purple golden-armored man. The purple golden-armored man said coldly, if we could transcend and become almighties, we wouldn't be stuck in such a limitless life and death situation. The ones who are left here are just a bunch of young fellows in our master's army of destruction. Dongbo Shuiying blinked his eyes. Since you want to join, then listen carefully. The purple golden-armored commander's gaze was misty. Our master's position is unparalleled. He has an army that specializes in attacking the outside world. This army is known as the Army of Destruction. It is extremely difficult to join the Army of Destruction. The test is extremely harsh. A large number of stage 4 world deities want to join. Some even want to become ordinary soldiers. The test for soldiers is extremely difficult. In the past, there were only 8 black-armored soldiers in the Army of Destruction. The commander looked at the 8 black-armored experts in front of him. There are only 3 captains left. As for the commander, I am the only one left. The purple golden-armored man said, we are all stage 4 world deities. In the end, we either die in battle or our true deity heart collapses. Even though we die, we return to Lake Heart Island and remain like this forever. Dongbo Shuiying could not help but ask, Senior Commander, you are also a stage 4 world deity? Commander is the only stage 4 world deity in our master's army of destruction to take on the position of commander. Commander has even personally killed a paragon. The ugly golden-armored old man said. It is just an avatar. The purple golden-armored man shook his head and sneered, furthermore, what is there to talk about? I was blinded by power. Pursuing power messed up my Tao heart and I will never be able to transcend. Dongbo Shuiying was speechless. His intuition was right. This commander was not any weaker than the 3 ancestors. This was just a stage 4 world deity. A stage 4 world deity can kill a paragon? Dongbua Shuang asked. Brat. The purple golden armored commander said softly, remember, the realm is the foundation. Power is just the external branches and leaves. If you chase after the luxuriance of the branches and leaves, you will forget about your foundation. In the end, you will fall and never be able to transcend. Dongbua Shuiying's heart trembled inexplicably. The realm was the foundation? Those who became true gods, I felt that they were so weak that I could kill them with a single punch. But after a long time, they all transcended and gained eternal life. As for me, I fell into oblivion. The purple golden armored commander shook his head, laughable, lamentable, and disappointing my master. We were able to join the army of destruction, yet we did not become powerful existences. This is a disgrace. The 12 of us are a disgrace. The 8 black armored soldiers and the 3 golden armored captains all turned silent. Disgrace. That's right, all of them were very strong. But what about now? They could not even leave Lake Heart Island. They were like puppets and could not be considered as true life. In history, those who joined the army of destruction had already become powerful existences. Or perhaps, they were already powerful existences when they first joined. Brat. The purple golden armored commander looked at Dongbua Shuiying. The army of destruction is the legion under Master's command to attack the outside world. It is extremely powerful. The test is extremely harsh. The absolute arts passed down are also extraordinary. But while you gain great power, there is a flaw. Once you truly die and your corpse is not destroyed, you will be controlled by Lake Heart Island. Once you return to Lake Heart Island, you will forever be controlled by Lake Heart Island. Of course, if you become a powerful existence and transcend, you will also be cut off from Lake Heart Island. This is the only flaw. It will only appear after you die. Many experts do not care about what happens after death. Furthermore, many experts are very happy to retain their consciousness after death. But if you truly experience such a life, being eternally locked in a region and living in loneliness, unable to die even if you want to, you will understand what it means to live a life worse than death. The purple golden armored commander said. Of course, there are many benefits to joining the army of destruction. Even the soldiers have their own unique absolute arts and true god weapons. The purple golden armored commander looked at Dongbua Shuiying, but I have to tell you this. Back then, large batches of stage 4 world deities wanted to join, but they were all eliminated. They did not even have the qualifications to become soldiers. From what I see, although your talent is not bad, you are too young and have too little experience. You cannot become a soldier of my army of destruction. Dongbua Shuiying had fought with the ape before. He could guess that the requirements to become a soldier of the army of destruction were definitely very harsh. However, he somewhat admired this commander, even though he didn't become an almighty in the end. Although he did not become a powerful existence, a stage 4 world deity could actually become a commander. He had heard that it was the only one in the army of destruction. Of course, you are different from us. You are a true life form. After you join, you do not need to be controlled by Lake Heart Island. You can enter and leave freely. After all, Master and the rest are no longer around. No one cares about you. This is something that we are envious of. The purple golden armored commander said, if you cannot transcend, you can accompany us after death. All right, you know what you should know. Now tell me, do you still want to join my army of destruction? The purple golden armored commander asked. Chapter 557. Dongbua Shuiying's eyes were very bright and he revealed a smile. If one is unable to transcend, it is only natural for one to sink into oblivion after death. I'm afraid most cultivators would choose to join. What about you? The purple gold armored man with a black cape looked at him calmly. I will join. Dongbua Shuiying said. Drawbacks. He didn't care about it at all. Perhaps these members of the army of destruction who were trapped here forever felt that it was a form of torture. However, Dongbua Shuiying didn't think so at all. The path of cultivation was filled with many dangers. If one wanted to obtain benefits, he would naturally have to bear the corresponding risks. The risk of joining the army of destruction was already very low. Very good. The purple gold armored man with a black cape turned his head. Follow me. He then soared into the sky and flew towards a distance. So. Dongbua Shuiying hurriedly followed. The other 3 golden armored captains and 8 black armored soldiers flew together with him. The ape at the side said excitedly, Ha, it has been a long time since a world god joined. It was only a few true gods who came to join. It's a pity that my army of destruction isn't a place that any true god can join. Almost none of them could pass the test. True God? Dongbo Shuang asked, which true gods have Blood Blade, Monarch Green and the others? Men? The purple gold armored man with a black cape who was flying in front turned his head and looked at Dongbo Shuang. He said softly, Blood Blade is a true god ruler. He is even at the peak of the true god rulers. He is extremely tyrannical and is the strongest existence in your universe epic. The army of destruction doesn't have a master to lead it. The so-called benefits aren't attractive to Blood Blade. Naturally he wouldn't join. Dongbo Shuang was startled. Huge waves rose in his heart. Your universe epic? What cosmos era? Dongbo Shuang could not help but ask, Commander, what do you mean? The purple gold-armored, black-caped man flew at the front and said calmly, in your current cosmos epic, there is the deity world, the material world and the dark abyss, right? Yes. Dongbo Shuang nodded. Plants grow and wither. The black-caped violet-golden-armored man continued, stars are born and destroyed as well. Even the worlds of your material realm are created and destroyed. In that case the God realm, the abyss and the material realm. Naturally there will be birth and destruction. The divine realm, the abyss and the material plane can be collectively called a complete universe. The universe is the same as plants. It can be destroyed and reborn, the black-caped man said. Dongbo Shuang could feel his mind buzzing. Even though he had just heard the news, he could tell that it was highly credible. After all, he knew that one of the three patriarchs, Pang Yi, was one of the earliest living beings to be born in the God world. The overlord of destruction was also an extremely ancient almighty in the divine realm and the abyss. In the earliest days of the God realm? Then what about before the God realm was born? What kind of world was that? And according to the legends, the Lake Heart Island ruins had existed since the earliest days of the God realm. That's all in the past. Now only a few ruins remain. The black-caped violet-golden armored man looked downwards. From afar, many ancient stone pillars could be seen. He immediately charged downwards, followed by Dongbo Shuang and the rest. Dongbo Shuang observed these stone pillars. With a single glance, he could see that there were over 100 of them. The Lord Commander stood there, his black cape fluttering in the wind. He looked at these stone pillars silently before saying, joining my army of destruction might not be very attractive to people at the Blood Blade level. However, those true gods and paragons all wanted to join, but almost all of them were eliminated. In your current cosmos epic, there was only one person who joined my army of destruction. One person. Dongbo Shuang was shocked. Who? Peng. The Lord Commander sighed, and he eventually became the captain. Truly amazing. Dongbo Shuang sighed. Peng. One of the three ancestors, Peng Yi. He was the leader of the Fierce Five of the deity world. However, he was currently very low profile, relying on the Bloodshed God Palace. He had always been pondering over his cultivation technique, not revealing any sharpness. In the deity world and abyss, he was most famous for being heavily injured by a single punch from Monarch Green. Yet he was a captain of the army of destruction. But, this commander became a commander when he was only at the fourth layer of the heavens. Pang Yi was merely a captain, yet he was praising him as amazing? Brat. The golden-armored ugly old man sneered, you don't know. Because Master and the others are no longer around, the resources of the army of destruction are limited. Naturally they can't accept people wantonly like we did in the past. The difficulty of the trials is much higher than what we did in the past. Those who can become soldiers now would have become captains in our time. Those who can become captains now would become commanders in the future. Dongbo Shuang was enlightened. In your cosmos epic, there have been a total of 29 true gods who have attempted it. Only Pang Yi has succeeded. The commander glanced at Dongbo Shuang. You are the first world deity of your cosmos epic to come here. Even though I am confident. Dongbo Shuang said, but there are many dazzling world deities in the history of the deity world. Why am I the first world deity to come here? The monkey by the side said, simple. If not for the guests from Lake Heart Island barging into our territory, we would not have said anything and would have directly killed them. Or even blasted them out. They would not have the chance to participate in the trials. And the world deities of your cosmos epic do not know the method to become a guest of Lake Heart Island. Those true gods did not tell you about it. Dongbo Shuang understood. He had chosen a remote cave to enter because he wanted to save his father-in-law. That was why he had unintentionally passed by the blazing blood door. Luck had played a part in it. After which, he felt that there was something wrong with the blazing blood door. When he was being chased, he rushed back to the blazing blood door to take a gamble. Only then did he discover the secret of the blazing blood door. Furthermore, he had an absolute art on him. In addition to the spear technique, destruction, which he had comprehended previously, he was able to pass the selection and become a guest. The secrets of some ancient ruins in the deity world and abyss were probably secrets even amongst the powerful existences. Normally, they would exchange secrets with each other and would not be easily revealed. Otherwise, there would not be only 29 true gods who had attempted it. One must know that there were more than 100 powerful existences in the deity world. Realms are the foundation. The commander said softly, the most important thing for world deities is to transcend. Joining the army of destruction might have been the biggest mistake of my life. However, there are many seniors in the army of destruction who have transcended. The reason is still me. The commander shook his head lightly. You can't blame others. It's just that little brat. You need to be vigilant. Take me as a warning. Remember, realms are the foundation. You must not be blinded by the increase in power. I understand. Dongbo Shuang nodded. The commander thought to himself. This logic was something his master had told him many times. However, only those who had suffered would understand it. Sometimes it was too late to understand. His master was a supreme existence back then. He was the owner of Lake Heart Island, yet he was unable to help him. Currently, our army of destruction is lacking in resources. The number of members we can accept is even fewer. If you wish to join, the difficulty will be even greater. The commander pointed to the many stone pillars at the side. There are a total of 3 trials to join. There is even a risk of death. However, I reckon that this is just an avatar. Losing an avatar shouldn't be a big deal, right? If you want to give up, you can do so anytime. There's no need. Dongbo Shuang said. If he gave up and was thrown out, he would still be surrounded by the king of Nanyang and the others. For the first trial, you will have to choose a stone pillar. You can choose any one. The commander said. Dongbo Shuang was bewildered as he looked at these stone pillars carefully. The stone pillars were simple and had many divine runes on them. They emitted an ancient aura, but he couldn't tell the difference. However, he still walked forward obediently and chose one. I will choose this one. All right. The commander pointed at the stone pillar. The surface of the stone pillar immediately lit up, and golden characters started to shine. This is a peak-grade world deity secret technique. It is only a sliver away from an absolute art. You need to cultivate this secret technique to the 7th level within 10,000 years. If you succeed within 10,000 years, you will pass the first trial. Otherwise, you will fail and you will be expelled from the destruction paradise. I don't think your chances are high. The monkey by the side muttered, I guess you will be expelled. Let me remind you, more than 90% of those who join will be eliminated right from the start. Chapter 558. The chances are slim. Difficult. It's even harder than passing a stage 4 trial. The black-armored soldiers who were neither dead nor alive sighed. The Lord Commander said, Dongbo Shuang, you only need to sense this stone pillar and you will be able to obtain the first level of the cultivation technique. Once you master the first level, you will be taught the second level. Once you master the second level, you will be taught the third level. You will only be able to sense this stone pillar. You will not be able to sense the other pillars. Understood. Dongbo Shuang replied, but he was inwardly shocked. He did not tell the commander his name, so how did he know? The other party was currently the person with the highest position in the army of destruction, and his position in the Lake Heart Island ruins should be quite high as well. He should have some way to obtain information. After all, the Lake Heart Island ruins was a place that even his teacher could only stop at. You only have 10,000 years. The Lord Commander turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the distance. Dongbo Shuang immediately focused on sensing the golden runes on the stone pillar. Strands of information were transmitted into Dongbo Shuang's sea of consciousness through the golden runes. This was the introduction of this peak world deity grade secret technique, as well as the contents of the first level. The moment he understood it, Dongbo Shuang's eyes widened. He finally knew what a peak world deity grade secret technique was. This secret technique was called 10 Apocalyptic Fire, and it was divided into 10 levels. From the 1st to the 3rd level, ordinary deities cultivated it. From the 4th to the 7th level, ordinary world deities cultivated it. From the 8th level, true gods cultivated it. From the 9th level, paragons cultivated it. From the 10th level, it was the highest level of grand perfection, and ordinary rulers cultivated it. This cultivation technique was to nurture an apocalyptic fire lotus in the inner world, within one's body. There are a total of 10 levels and this flame is extremely powerful. However, compared to my luminous sun, absolute art, it is still lacking in terms of fighting against those of a higher realm. Dongbo Shuang thought. If he did not obtain the luminous sun, he would definitely be shocked. This 10 apocalyptic fire was much more tyrannical than all the world deity grade secret techniques he had obtained before, and he could even cultivate it at the level of blood blade. However, when he compared it to a true absolute art, he discovered its weakness. For example, the 7th level could only be trained by stage 4 world deities, and it was enough to allow one to move unhindered amongst stage 4 world deities. It could burn many stage 4 world deities to the point of howling in pain, and its power could probably be considered to be at the 4th boundary of the 3rd volume of the luminous sun. Reaching the 7th level is probably even harder than reaching the 4th rank of luminous Sunday. After all, this is something only ordinary stage 4 world deities can train in. Dongbo Shuang thought to himself. Forget it, I'll give it a try first. Dongbo Shuang sat cross-legged in front of the stone pillar and began to cultivate. The other 8 soldiers of the army of destruction and the 3 gold-armored captains were chatting with each other. I bet he will definitely fail. How can such a tender little guy succeed in 10,000 years? He has his main body outside, so he can probably accelerate time. Even if time is accelerated 100 times, it would only be 1,000,000 years. It's still impossible. It would be easier for a stage 4 world deity to cultivate a real god's secret technique, but for a stage 3 world deity to cultivate a stage 4 world deity's secret technique? This is much more difficult. I also feel that his chances are slim. They were all discussing and their opinions were unanimous. They all felt that it was impossible for Dongbo Shuang to reach the 7th level within 10,000 years. Dongbo Shuang's inner world was a vast world of 5 billion kilometers. Deep underground in this vast land, there was a huge lotus flower that could be roughly seen. Countless flames were swimming within the lotus flower, and the outer layer of the lotus flower was filled with endless cold air, causing the surrounding soil and rocks to completely freeze. At the center of the lotus flower, there was a tiny flame being nurtured. This flame was green in color. It was like a small flame, green in color, yet its power was not small. 4th level. 5th level. Dongbo Shuang's realm was high, so he could cultivate at an extremely fast pace. The original green flame had gradually turned into a blue flame, and the blue color was becoming deeper and deeper. Deity World, Bloodshed God Palace territory. Within a piece of void, there was a huge floating land. On this land there was a chain of palaces. There were also many scattered cavern dwellings. This place was slightly unique as there were countless mortals living here. Teacher, this disciple will take his leave. A white-robed teenager respectfully bowed. This white-robed teenager was the powerful existence palace head Zihao. He was the disciple of Pang Yi, though he was not a member of the Bloodshed God Palace. He only came here frequently to pay a visit to his teacher. Pang Yi had once imparted to many disciples, and he was very serious in teaching them. He had taught many good disciples. But now Pang Yi did not teach many disciples anymore. He was wholeheartedly researching the cultivation technique he created. Zihao, you still have to calm down. You're still too arrogant. It's difficult for you to open up your own path and step into the honorable realm. Pang Yi sat there with a calm and gentle look on his face. One had to know. Pang Yi was the head of the fierce 5 of the deity world, and could be said to be the most tyrannical existence in the deity world. But now he was so gentle. It was truly inconceivable. This disciple understands. It's just that understanding is easy but doing it is hard. The white-robed teenager chuckled. He greatly admired his teacher. The more he interacted with him, the more he admired and respected him from the bottom of his heart. Even that high and mighty Bloodshed God Palace, the Bloodshed God Palace, valued Pang Yi the most. Amen? Pang Yi softly nodded. The white-robed teenager immediately retreated, disappearing from sight. Pang Yi sat beneath a withered tree. His robes were already covered in dust. His heart was still as calm as water as he watched his disciple leave. Even when his disciple left through the time-space tunnel, he would still be able to observe him. His current combat power had long become unfathomable. He could sense the countless mortals, cultivators, and even powerful existences within this land spanning 1,000,000,000,000 kilometers. They were all under his control. They were as weak as ants. If he wanted to, with just a single thought, a terrifying power would descend, and he would be able to easily kill a powerful existence. Even if he sat on this seemingly ordinary body, with a slight burst of power, the surroundings would be completely annihilated. This was the power that Pang Yi possessed. It was also the power that made even God Emperor look at him. Just that. Power is ultimately a side branch. Pang Yi no longer cared about power. His face was filled with joy as he looked at the myriad existences, appreciating their beauty. My cultivation technique is finally about to be completed. He was very happy. His Tao was about to be completed. Brother Pang Yi. A message was transmitted over. Commander? Pang Yi chuckled as he turned his head. His gaze pierced through the time-space barrier, traversing through the endless distance before landing on the distant Lake Heart Island. That commander had a higher status than him in name, but he was usually more respectful towards him. After all, the trials were much more difficult. That time, Pang Yi could become a captain. During the era of the Lake Heart Island Master, Pang Yi would most likely have become a commander. Furthermore, the commander felt that Pang Yi was becoming more and more unfathomable. He could even sense a trace of his teacher's aura from Pang Yi. I have a little fellow here called Dongbo Shuang. He is also preparing to join the army of destruction. The commander transmitted. Dongbo Shuang? I know him. Pang Yi smiled. It's a good thing for him to join. First, he pursues power, indulges in it, and then transcends it. That's a good thing. But if he can't transcend, he will sink into oblivion. A mediocre true god's existence is meaningless. Pang Yi said. The commander felt that he couldn't see through Pang Yi anymore. When he first met Pang Yi, he felt that Pang Yi was extremely violent. Later on, he realized that Pang Yi was extremely gentle and calm. However, when he occasionally interacted with Pang Yi, he realized that Pang Yi's coldness was much stronger than before. This was an existence that surpassed him in terms of power, state of mind, and realm. In the Destruction Grotto Heaven within the Lake Heart Island historical remains. In front of a stone pillar, a black-robed Dongbo Shuang was still sitting cross-legged. It had been 1,000 years, but he still hadn't mastered it. Chapter 559. The moment he received the information about the 10 apocalyptic fire, Dongbo Shuang understood that this test was extremely difficult. Because he had only grasped hold of 3 grade 1 deity hearts, his comprehension of the laws of the world was far from a stage 4 world deity. But since there was such a test, there was definitely hope. One of the 3 ancestors, Pang Yi, was able to become a captain. At the very least, I should be able to become a soldier. Dongbo Shuang encouraged himself inwardly. But he also knew that there were many powerful existences who had yet to pass the test. The first 6 levels of the 10 apocalyptic fire were completed by Dongbo Shuang in a single breath. His realm was relatively high, and even his absolute art had reached the 3rd transformation. Furthermore, he had comprehended the huge array formed by billions of meteorites on the Lake Heart Island, allowing him to perfect his spear technique, destruction. His foundation was extremely sturdy, and the first 6 levels were not difficult at all. But the 7th level was like a heavenly moat in front of Dongbo Shuang. I'm confused. How should I comprehend it? Dongbo Shuang buried his head in contemplation. Back in his hometown, the Xia people's world, Crimson Rock Mountain, Dongbo Shuang was also pondering and comprehending under 100-fold time acceleration. At times, he would ponder to the point of becoming a little irritable. After all, the feeling of not having a single clue was too terrible. When cultivating, one would only feel more motivated when one saw the slightest improvement. Such a situation where one could not find a clue would indeed affect one's mental state. To change his mindset, Dongbo Shuang even went to study the 4th transformation of the 3rd volume of the Luminous Sun. He also studied the many array diagrams in the book left behind by the frozen senior Paragon Dust Cloud. At times, he would also recall the various profound mysteries of the array formed by billions of meteorites on the Lake Heart Island. He could use the stones of other mountains to study jade. Since he could not find a way to comprehend it himself, he would look for a breakthrough from these more profound absolute arts and array diagrams. In the blink of an eye, 1,000 years passed. Within Dongbo Shuang's inner world. Rumble, high up in the sky of this vast world, the winds howled and countless white clouds surged. These white clouds were constantly changing as the luminous sun force that formed these white clouds was undergoing a transformation, transforming into an even more tenacious, powerful, and tyrannical force. Every strand of luminous sun force contained a sharpness that could cause the expressions of stage 4 heavens to change. Sigh. A huge illusory head appeared in midair, it was Dongbu Shui Ying's face. He looked at the countless white clouds. I'm still at my wit's end with my secret technique, and I've even managed to push Luminous Sun to the 4th transformation realm. Yes, his Luminous Sun force had already reached rank 4. My good son-in-law, is this the power of the absolute art? A figure flew up from below, flying into mid-air, nearing the huge skull illusion at the side. It was precisely the white-haired and white-bearded monarch Mo Shui. It's the absolute art that Master bestowed upon me. Dongbu Shuiying looked towards monarch Mo Shui and said, "Powerful, truly powerful. Even though I'm sensing it from afar, I can still feel the tyrannical and unstoppable power of this power." Monarch Mo Shui praised, "Just based on the power within your body, you're already far above me. Father-in-law, this luminous sun force is the only thing that I can rely on. But in terms of realm, I'm still far from father-in-law's." Dongbu Shuiying shook his head. 4th transformation success. His own strength should be comparable to Monarch Armadillo Jade, and could be considered close to the standard of a powerful existence. Compared to his father-in-law who could truly fight against powerful existences, he was still lacking quite a bit. The difference between a stage 3 and a stage 4 was simply too great. A stage 4 at least grasped hold of 4 grade 1 deity hearts, maybe even 5, 6, or even close to grasping the complete law of heaven and earth. Monarch Mo Shui's inner strength was ordinary, but his realm was too high. He was still a level stronger than Dongbu Shuiying. Your strength has greatly increased, yet you're not the slightest bit excited. Is it because of the test of joining the army of destruction? Monarch Mo Shui asked. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. Even though attaining the 4th transformation realm is a good thing, I was originally going to reach it soon anyway. It's just a matter of time. But if I'm unable to pass the test, then I'll be forcefully expelled. At that time I'll land in the hands of 9 Yang Palace Head and the rest. If 9 Yang Palace Head and the rest can't obtain the true God weapon, they definitely won't let father-in-law off. If father-in-law died, then this time would be a complete failure. No matter what, the true God weapon definitely can't be given to them. Monarch Mo Shui solemnly said, "The number of true God weapons is extremely rare. For me to be able to coincidentally discover it, it's already a great fortune. I'm a person that's about to die. Even if I'm lucky enough to successfully escape and reincarnate, I'll only be able to drag out my life for a few more years. I don't have the slightest bit of confidence that I'll be able to transcend and become a powerful existence. This old man, have lived for so many years that I no longer care about death. The true God weapon must be left behind so that my daughter can comprehend it from time to time. Even Snow Eagle can comprehend it, it'll be of great help to your cultivation." Amen? Dongbu Shuiying nodded. He also understood that it was impossible for father-in-law to hand over the true God weapon to 9 Yang Palace Head. Moreover, the true God weapon was currently in Jingqiu's hands. But to pass the test, it's difficult. This is only the first test. Dongbu Shuiying shook his head. "What's the first test? Tell me." Monarch Mo Shui asked. "Maybe I can give you some suggestions." Previously he knew that Dongbu Shuiying was undergoing a test, so he didn't dare to disturb him. Dongbu Shuiying's eyes lit up. That's right, even if he couldn't find a clue, he could still consult father-in-law. Father-in-law's realm was much higher than his. His own realm wasn't any weaker than a powerful existence. Moreover, after living for a long time, his vision and knowledge would be different. Maybe he could give him some pointers on the way. "It's like this." Dongbu Shuiying said, "The army of destruction gave me a world deity grade secret technique called 10 World Extinguishing Fire. It's a top-notch world deity grade secret technique. The difficulty of cultivating it is extremely high, and it's divided into a total of 10 levels." Dongbu Shuiying gave a simple description as well as where the problem he encountered was. Monarch Mo Shui nodded lightly after hearing it. "The test is really difficult. To actually let you, a stage 3 world deity, cultivate it to a level that only a normal stage 4 world deity can achieve. I'm at my wit's end now." Dongbu Shuiying said helplessly. "Your realm isn't enough. There's nothing you can do about it. Unless you become a stage 4 world deity. However, if you become a stage 4 world deity, I'm afraid the difficulty of the test will increase." Monarch Mo Shui said. "Amen?" Dongbu Shuiying nodded. He also understood this point. If you want to forcefully comprehend it, then according to what I know, there's only one way and it's still very difficult. Monarch Mo Shui said while stroking his beard. Dongbu Shuiying's huge illusory head was filled with joy. "Father-in-law, please explain in detail." This father-in-law of his was really experienced and knowledgeable. He had foolishly comprehended it for 1,000 years, yet he never came to ask his father-in-law. Your problem is that your realm isn't enough. Clearly, this 10-world extinguishing fire has extremely high requirements for many aspects of the realm. Monarch Mo Shui said, since that's the case, then we can only break through the surface with a single point. Break through the surface with a single point? Dongbo Shuiying listened carefully in doubt. All laws and profound mysteries have a core essence. This is the laws of the world. Its essence is also just grade 1 deity heart. Monarch Mo Shui said, first, comprehend the different essences of this secret technique. From the different angles of the world deity heart, extremity deity heart, and chaotic deity heart, go and take a look. For example, see how the world deity heart of this secret technique is used. See how the extremity deity heart of this secret technique is used. Analyzing it from 3 angles, the difficulty of cultivating this secret technique should be reduced. You will have hope in cultivating it. Break through the surface with a single point? Separate and analyze it? Dongbo Shuiying's eyes brightened. It seemed like it was possible. I will try. Dongbo Shuiying's huge illusory head smiled. Thank you, Lord Father-in-law. Aha, I am only pointing a direction. Everything still depends on you. Monarch Mo Shui said. Dongbo Shuiying was very excited. Although his master blood blade had also guided him in his cultivation, God Emperor had guided him in comprehending the laws of the world, and how to transcend and become a powerful existence. As for the aspect of cultivating the secret technique to increase one's strength, he had not guided him at all. From Lord Commander's fate, it seemed that pursuing power too much was not good. Lord Commander and Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master were both Stage 4 world deities who possessed tyrannical strength, but they were both stuck at Stage 4 world deities. However, there were many who cultivated absolute arts. For example, Bloodblade's 2 personal disciples, Monarch Green and Monarch Guzong, had both cultivated absolute arts, but they were similarly powerful existences. This proved one point. Cultivating absolute arts did not affect one's cultivation. It was just that pursuing power too stubbornly would bring about trouble. My current strength is still very weak, so I do not have this problem. Dongbo Shuiying did not care. He was not even a Stage 4 world deity and was still far from it. Chapter 560. In his Sea of Consciousness, there was a diagram of a flaming lotus which contained the cultivation method of the 7th level of 10 world extinguishing fire. He could only receive the information of the next level with every level that he mastered. Let's analyze it first. A small person was beside the flaming lotus and he was looking at it carefully. Many parts of the originally complicated flame lotus that he could not understand were discarded to the side, and he focused his attention on the profound mysteries of the world deity heart. Soon, under his observation, the flame lotus was greatly simplified, and only a few very simple parts were left, all of which contained the profound mysteries of the world deity heart. So, in this secret skill, world god heart is mainly used to nurture a lair? The small person's eyes beamed with joy. Sometimes it was better to look at it from another angle. It looked like a mess, but one could immediately find the pattern. In the Destruction Grotto, although the 8 black-armored soldiers and the 3 gold-armored captains were powerful, they could only live in loneliness. Such days would never end, unless someone destroyed their bodies one day. But their strongest point was their body. Their defense was almost invincible. Hence, they had lived for too long. They looked at Dongbo Shuiying and they were looking forward to it. It was one of the few pleasures in their lonely days. Kid, it's been 2,000 years. Do you have no clue? It's hard on you. Your realm is too low. Come back after you become a universe god in the 4th heaven. By then you might have a higher chance. The black-armored soldiers at the side teased him. Dongbo Shuiying, who was dressed in black, sat there cross-legged, immersed in his cultivation and wasn't affected at all. If you think there's no hope, just give up. Why do you have to force yourself? The monkey muttered. This kid, Dongbo, I heard that he was being chased outside. That's why he ran to us. A black-armored stone giant said, if he were to be chased out, he would still die. So he won't give up easily. Not giving up is also a loss. A universe god in the 3rd heaven needs to master the 7th level. If he succeeds, I will eat my axe into my stomach. A short old man said. While they were talking, time flew. In the blink of an eye, Dongbo Shuiying had been in the Destruction Grotto for 3,000 years. At the outermost perimeter of the island, Jingqiu, who was cultivating in seclusion, was also waiting. She had waited for so many years, but her husband and father had yet to come out. However, after communicating with Dongbo Shuiying, she knew that everything was still safe. Thus, she could only endure and lower her head to comprehend the true god weapon to distract herself. Jing Qiu, who was dressed in white, was sitting cross-legged. A dark green longsword was placed on her knees, sheathed in its sheath. Jing Qiu was currently using her mind to sense the true god weapon. She was also slowly refining it. The difficulty of refining a true god weapon was too high. Boom! Within the true god weapon. In the void, it was like the world core of the mortal world. Within this void, there were countless laws of profound mysteries surging. These countless laws of profound mysteries ultimately formed a vast dark green sword shape. It carried a terrifying sharpness and killing intent. Amazing! Jing Qiu's consciousness wandered about as though she was in a vast ocean, and the dark green sword-shaped rule was the ocean. The complete laws of the heaven and earth, by right, should be absolutely balanced and should not have any offensive power. However, the complete laws within this true god weapon were filled with killing intent and offensive power. Moreover, it seemed to be more complicated than the ordinary laws of the heaven and earth. This was also why ordinary grotto heaven treasures were considered common. At least stage 4 world deities had hopes of obtaining them. Powerful existences could usually refine them. And this was also the reason why true god weapons were so hard to obtain. Grotto heaven treasures could only open up a world within them. As for offensive true god weapons, firstly, the laws of the heaven and earth would change. Secondly, the material requirements were extremely high, making it even harder to refine. Wung, the divine sword within the sheath was trembling faintly, and terrifying killing intent was brewing. This was the killing intent of a world. The moment it was unsheathed, it was as though the power of a vast world was gathered within the sword edge. It was indestructible. My realm isn't enough. Until now, I have yet to completely refine it. I still have to continue improving. Jing Qiu thought. She was very clear that her fate was extremely good. Firstly, she had the heart sword diagram and a true god weapon for her to refine and control. Now that she had just become a stage 4 world deity not too long ago, even though she could comprehend other things, the deity heart she comprehended was not much. Compared to Monarch Mo Shui and the other old fellows, her foundation was still lacking. Lake Heart Island inside the ruins. The cold youth, Nanyang Palace head, was sitting cross-legged on a large ice block. He frowned and flipped his hand to take out a black jade sculpture. It was a sculpture of a woman being chained up. He gently caressed it. I am already close to despair. Until now, I have yet to find my path. Such days are so tiring. Nanyang Palace head muttered, I really want to give up and be truly free. However, this true god weapon is my hope to open up my path. I must obtain it. Nanyang Palace head's eyes were filled with madness. Dongbo Shuiying slowly opened his eyes and looked at the stone pillar in front of him. Sensing the stone pillar transmitted another message. It was the cultivation method of the 8th level of the secret skill. Dongbo Shuiying stood up. Dongbo brat, are you prepared to give up? The monkey made a ruckus. Giving up so quickly? I thought you would have to hold on for 10,000 years. Another short old man chuckled. I have already mastered it. Dongbo Shuiying spoke. He looked at the 8 black armored soldiers and 3 golden armored captains who were stunned. Please inform the commander to prepare for the second test. Mastered it? Everyone was stunned. How was this possible? Ever since the master left, the resources of the army of destruction no longer increased and would forever decrease. Hence, the requirements to join were much harsher. Moreover, in this long period of time, there had never been a stage 3 world deity who came to participate. Dongbo Shuiying was the first stage 3 world deity who came to take the test after the master of Lake Heart Island left. The difficulty level was already extremely high. From what they saw, the possibility of success was almost negligible. The 7th level, 10 world extinguishing fire. Dongbo Shuiying spat out from his mouth. Instantly, faint purple flames rushed out and caused the surrounding space to sizzle. Looking at the faint purple flames, it seemed very beautiful. However, the soldiers and captains of the army of destruction knew the power of the flames. It didn't pose a threat to them, but an ordinary stage 4 world deity would be severely injured. Those who were weaker might even be burned into nothingness. He actually succeeded. All of them looked at the flames that Dongbo Shuiying spat out. Short old man, didn't you say that if he mastered it, you would eat the axe into your stomach? The monkey turned his head and shouted. The short old man blinked and opened his mouth wide. Then he stuffed the axe that he was carrying on his back into his mouth and swallowed. Gulp. He swallowed the axe into his stomach. "I'll do as I said." The short old man replied straightforwardly. Amidst their exclamations, quarrels and discussions, a ray of light finally flew over from afar. It was the purple-gold armored commander with a black cape. The commander descended and looked at Dongbo Shuang. "You've mastered it?" "Yes." Dongbo Shuang smiled. He pointed out with his finger and a strand of faint purple flames appeared on his fingertip. "Do you think that mastering it is worth being happy about? You're still far from it." The commander sneered. He extended his hand. Hong Long Long, the entire destruction paradise was filled with a surging power. The boundless power enveloped Dongbo Shuang. Dongbo Shuang felt his vision turning black as his consciousness became blurry. The terrifying power had completely enveloped him and seeped into his body, forcefully sealing his true deity heart. Following which, the power retreated rapidly. This. Dongbo Shuang was puzzled. If the other party wanted to kill him, it would be extremely easy. Why did he seal his true deity heart? But this feeling. Dongbo Shuang sensed that he could no longer activate the luminous sun force within his body. Of course, because the inner world was a part of his body, he could still control it. However, the consciousness of his true deity heart was no longer able to penetrate the outside world. His senses towards the outside world had become blurry, and he felt like a mortal. His consciousness could no longer sense the heavens and earth. However, there was still a difference between him and a mortal. His vision and hearing were much better. His eyes could see countless different types of light, and his hearing could hear countless vibrations. However, this was already extremely weak. After all, he couldn't even activate the luminous sun force. "Prepare to begin the second trial," the commander said indifferently. Chapter 561. Follow me. The commander instantly soared into the sky. The other 8 black-armored soldiers and 3 golden-armored captains followed suit. Dongbo Shuang suddenly stomped on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. South, exerting strength from both his legs, he leaped into the sky and transformed into a stream of light. However, Dongbo Shuang felt slightly awkward in midair. In the past, he had always relied on his world deity energy or luminous sun force to envelop his entire body, allowing his flying speed to be extremely fast. He had even relied on his consciousness to control the laws of profound mysteries. But what about now? Right now, he was unable to use his world deity energy or luminous sun force. Even his consciousness could not be released. He could only rely on his physical strength. "Haha, your flying speed must be very slow, right?" The black-armored ape who was originally flying slowed down and laughed weirdly. "You can only rely on your physical strength. Have a good feel of it. The soldiers of the army of destruction are most proficient in their bodies. Our absolute arts are also meant to cultivate our bodies. Hence, all of our defenses are extremely strong. If you can't even control your body well, then you should not join the army of destruction." Dongbo Shuang was enlightened. Body. Sealing his true deity heart was to allow him to only use his physical strength to test himself? South. When Dongbo Shuang was flying, the slightest tremble of his muscles and bones would cause the laws of heaven and earth to change. The profound mysteries of the world deity heart allowed Dongbo Shuang to move without any obstructions. Instead, the laws of heaven and earth would assist him. Furthermore, the extreme deity heart allowed Dongbo Shuang to move at an extremely high speed. Wung wung wung, everywhere Dongbo Shuang flew past, spatial ripples would form around him. It was just that his flying speed was greatly reduced. He could only move at a speed of 200,000 li per second. "Your body is too weak, too weak." The ape by the side followed suit. At the same time, it shook its head and commented, "Your flying speed can't even reach the limit of the laws of heaven and earth of 600,000 li per second. What a joke. Even the weakest soldier of our army of destruction can casually flick his finger and destroy your body." "My secret technique is not good at cultivating the body," Dongbo Shuang said. Among his secret techniques, only the time immemorial body was used to train his body. However, it was used to protect his life. It was not good in terms of strength or speed. Moreover, it was only a world deity level secret technique. Dongbo Shuang was only a stage 3 world deity, so his secret technique realm was not high. Naturally, he could not be compared to the soldiers of the army of destruction. Cultivate your body properly. The body is the easiest to improve. The monkey said, "World deity energy and some other powers are classified as energy. The body, on the other hand, belonged to the material. In terms of explosive power, sturdy defense, and so on, matter has an advantage. Dongbu Shuang nodded in agreement. The Grade 1 deity heart, the substance deity heart. Once grasped, one would possess boundless strength and extremely high defense. However, the difficulty of cultivating it was extremely high. Ordinary stage 4 world deities would only be able to grasp the substance deity heart by analogy. Among the weaker world deities, it was rare to see the substance deity heart. Both the substance deity heart and the boundless deity heart were rather rare. Dongbu Shuang had only seen Jiaoshi display the boundless deity heart during the myriad flower feast. Who? The commander flying in front did not fly very fast. It seemed to be intentionally bringing Dongbu Shuang along. After which he descended as well. The subordinates behind him, including Dongbu Shuang, also descended one after another. Dongbu Shuang looked down. Below them was a chain of mountains. They were verdant and lush, and the canyon was dark and gloomy. Within the mountains there were many caves and buildings. They were currently diving down from a mountain peak. The peak of the mountain had been completely leveled, and there was a complete battle platform on it. So. The commander and the others landed beside the battle platform. Dongbu Shuang descended as well. You go up. The commander said. Dongbu Shuang did not ask any questions. He directly took a step forward. In a while there will be many enemies surrounding and attacking you. The number of enemies will be endless, and the duration of the battle is unknown. You have to keep fighting until the enemies take the initiative to retreat. At that time you will be victorious and you will pass the second trial. If you are defeated or killed before the enemies retreat, you will naturally fail. Remember, the moment you are blasted out of the battle platform, you will fail as well. The commander said. The duration of the battle is unknown? Dongbu Shuang asked. Then what about the number of enemies? They will appear unceasingly. The total number is unknown as well. The commander chuckled. What you have to do is to hold on. Dongbu Shuang was speechless. If there was a clear boundary, there would be something to look forward to. But right now he did not even know how long the battle would last. This would definitely affect his mental state. However, Dongbu Shuang was not an ordinary person. In an instant he regained his composure. Seems like the second trial is indeed a test of my physical strength. With a flip of his hand, Dongbu Shuang retrieved a scarlet-red spear, the Scarlet Cloud Spear. With a single step, he arrived at the center of the dueling platform as he cautiously observed his surroundings. As long as he was blasted out of the dueling platform, he would still lose. Naturally, it would be safer for him to stand at the center of the dueling platform. Let's begin. The commander said. Immediately, black deity imprints appeared on the surface of the dueling platform. Countless deity imprints appeared, and a blurry barrier of light appeared around the dueling platform. The countless deity imprints on the barrier of light began to emit energy, directly condensing into a humanoid figure formed from black light. This black figure was wearing a mask and he was bare-handed. With a boom he charged over with incredible speed. Pooh! Dongbu Shuang struck out with his spear. Without any hesitation, his spear directly pierced through the throat of the black figure. The black figure's body immediately collapsed, and the energy returned to the countless deity imprints on the ground. This caused Dongbu Shuang to be slightly surprised. It was settled just like that? Wasn't it too easy? Following which, another black figure condensed from the deity imprints on the barrier of light. This time it was wielding a long saber, and it pounced over with a speed that far surpassed the previous one. Dang! Dongbu Shuaying's expression changed. He hurriedly used his spear to parry the incoming attack. Following which he retaliated with a spear strike. It seemed like a casual spear art, but it was actually one of the 3 secret arts, the life. Everything was based on the profound mysteries of the world, and everything came from his heart. His moves were bold and unconstrained, and he could adapt according to the situation. However, this black figure managed to block 3 consecutive spear strikes from Dongbu Shuang. The last spear strike pierced through his chest and he was nailed to the ground. Only then did his body start to collapse. So. Dongbu Shuaying's expression changed slightly. In front of him, the deity imprints on the barrier of light condensed into a black figure. There were a total of 2 black figures, one wielding a long pole, and the other wielding a shield and a curved saber. Both of them attacked Dongbu Shuaying at the same time. Boom! The black figure wielding the shield and curved saber was the most ferocious. When he attacked, his shield suddenly expanded and in an instant, it covered half of the platform. In addition, Dongbu Shuaying's current speed wasn't considered fast. There was no way for him to dodge and he could only face the black figure head-on. Dongbo Shuiying spun his spear and the shaft of the spear was bent. Everywhere it passed by, layers of world fissures would appear, and he directly lashed out. Peng, even though Shuiying had carefully borrowed a large number of world gaps to dissipate the force, when that shield clashed with the spear, Shuiying could not help but take 3 heavy steps back. Such a powerful force. If I were to clash head-on, I'm afraid I would have been forced out of the battle platform. The strength of the enemies on the platform was growing too quickly. Each of them was stronger than the last and their numbers were still increasing. Dongbo brat, you must know how to utilize your body's strength. The monkey shouted loudly from afar. The other black-armored soldiers, the golden-armored captain, and the commander were all watching leisurely. From their point of view, Dongbo Shuiying's utilization of his body's strength was indeed very clumsy. Dongbo Shuiying couldn't be blamed. When he was a mortal, he mainly used his body's strength. After he became a transcendent or even a deity or a world deity, he would either rely on the laws of profound mysteries of the heavens and earth, or some special secret arts such as the luminous sun force. Even if he occasionally used brute force to fight, he would only rely on it to bully others. After becoming a world deity, it had been a long time since he had truly studied the potential of his body. After all, the luminous sun force was much stronger than his physical body, and the army of destruction specialized in physical aspects. These old fellows who had existed for an unknown period of time naturally felt that Dongbo Shuiying's utilization of his body's strength was too clumsy. Chapter 562. Actually, Dongbo Shuiying already understood that sealing his true deity heart was a test of his physical strength. Thus, when he was fighting on the stage, he had been thinking about how he could unleash his physical strength to the best of his abilities. The first 2 opponents were much easier to deal with and were quickly dealt with. But now the 2 black men surrounding him were clearly much stronger. If he were to use his spear techniques, he would be able to deal with them swiftly. However, Dongbo Shuiying did not dare to act hastily this time around. Instead, he began to drag things out. This was because the moment he killed his opponent, the black men that would appear would be even stronger. At that time, it would be extremely difficult for him to focus on improving his physical strength. Physical strength. Dongbo Shuiying's current realm was many times higher than when he was a mortal. His senses towards every single particle of his body could be felt. Because he had cultivated the time-immemorial body, every single particle of his body was a world of its own. Each world was chaotic and blurry, and was currently developing towards the perfect, time-immemorial world. Usually, one would need to grasp the complete laws of the heaven and earth before they could develop a complete time-immemorial world. Even so, the potential of Dongbo Shuiying's body was still huge. The power that could be unleashed from every single particle of his body was only a small portion of his potential. At the same time, within the Crimson Rock Mountain of the Xia people's world, the white-robed Dongbo Shuiying was sitting cross-legged under a huge tree. The time flow in this courtyard had been accelerated to 10,000 times, giving him more time to ponder. Physical strength. How can I unleash an even stronger physical strength? The white-robed Dongbo Shuiying pondered as the leaves of the tree before him swayed and fell. Compared to the laws of the heaven and earth, the physical body is relatively simple. The white-robed Dongbo Shuiying sensed his own body. To mortals, the body contained many mysteries. But to a stage 3 world deity, he had long seen through the body. Hair, bones, skin, blood vessels, organs, etc. There was no need to mention these. Even the tiniest particle of Dongbo Shuiying's body was as vast as a continent. Every single particle of Dongbo Shuiying's body was as vast as a chaotic world. Every single particle of Dongbo Shuiying's body possessed immense power, allowing them to withstand even greater attacks. In order for my body to unleash more power, I must first let every single particle in my body unleash more power. Dongbo Shuiying thought to himself. Bang. In the deepest layer of every muscle cell in his arm, there was a blurry and chaotic world within this single particle. Under Dongbo Shuiying's control, the power of this world had increased exponentially, instantly increasing by tens of times. This requires me to carefully control every single particle, but there are countless particles in my body. I can't split my attention to billions of particles. Dongbo Shuiying thought to himself. Furthermore, I would have to divert my attention to control countless particles during the battle. How am I supposed to fight? In a life and death battle, the greatest taboo was to be distracted. It would be fine if he were to divert his attention to fight against an expert like Dongbo Shuiying. However, if he were to focus on controlling the particles in his body, it would have a huge impact on the battle. In order to unleash the power of my body, I definitely can't control every single particle in such a precise manner. Then what should I do? He was barely able to unleash a powerful strength, but his movements were clumsy. He couldn't even properly utilize the laws of profound mysteries. Such a blockhead could be easily killed by an expert. Dongbo Shuiying sat cross-legged. There was no need to study his muscles and bones anymore. The only thing he could improve on was the eruption of every single particle in his body. How could he not affect his strength during the battle? His particles still had tens of times more potential. Boom. The white-robed Dongbo Shuiying sat cross-legged under a large tree. Suddenly, a terrifying shockwave erupted from his body, causing the surrounding space to tremble and form ripples that spread out in all directions. At the same time, Crimson Rock Mountain also activated its power to control this shockwave. After all, if it was allowed to continue, it would probably destroy an area of hundreds of thousands of kilometers. At this moment, a barrier appeared around Dongbo Shuiying. Although the spatial ripples within the barrier surged, the barrier was as stable as Mount Tai. It's still too deliberate. With a single thought it would erupt. Dongbo Shuiying silently mused. Boom. The white-robed Dongbo Shuiying continued to unleash shockwave after shockwave. Terrifying spatial ripples spread out in all directions, but they were all forcefully suppressed by the spatial barrier. Boom. 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 His body continued to erupt with power, sometimes strong and sometimes weak. This was something he hadn't properly researched after becoming a world deity. Dongbo Shuiying's realm was after all, and he naturally gained many insights from his research. He understood many methods to utilize his techniques, such as how he could better control the energy of the particle world in the depths of his body, allowing all the energy to be gathered together and unleashed. He experimented again and again. 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Dongbo Shuiying merely spent an hour to increase his strength by 5 times. After that, his rate of improvement became much slower. Actually, even if he were to increase his strength by 5 times, his combat power would still be at the level of a stage 3 world deity. Compared to the luminous sun force, which was close to the level of a powerful existence, the difference was too great. It was no wonder that Dongbo Shuiying was too lazy to think about it. Because there were countless world deities, there would definitely be those who researched on the explosive power of one's body. However, he had never heard of anyone who could rely on their physical strength to fight against those of a higher realm. Even if one's strength was tyrannical and unrivaled, it was only because of the absolute arts they cultivated. For example, the absolute art of the Army of Destruction was an absolute art that trained one's body. It allowed one's body to soar in all aspects, making one's strength, speed, and even defense unrivaled. Because this absolute art specialized in strength, it was still meaningful to research on the explosive power of one's body. After spending another day or so, Dongbo Shuiying finally managed to increase his strength by 6 times. He understood that even if he spent another year and a half, it would be hard for him to reach 7 times. In the depths of the mysterious Lake Heart Island, within the Destruction Paradise. Although the white-robed Dongbo Shuiying had spent more than a day in his hometown, due to the time acceleration of 10,000 times, the black-robed Dongbo Shuiying who was battling on the battle platform on the mountain peak did not even spend a breath's time. Hua hua hua. Although Dongbo Shuiying did not kill the 2 black-robed men and was intentionally delaying for time, the light barrier at the edge of the battle platform condensed another 3 black-robed men. This caused Dongbo Shuiying's expression to change slightly. He did not kill his opponent, but new opponents actually appeared. Furthermore, the number of opponents was increasing? Haha, Dongbo brat, regardless of whether you kill your opponent or not, as time passes, your enemies will only increase. The golden-armored old man laughed weirdly. Hong hong. The spear in Dongbo Shuiying's hand changed, and the strength of his body immediately increased by 3 times. The speed of his spear was obviously faster, and his spear moves were more vicious. Like a venomous snake probing its path, the spear merely made contact with the shield of the black-robed man, creating an opening. In an instant, the spear pierced through the shield and into the chest of the black-robed man, following which he did not stop. With a flip of his hand, the spear slashed down furiously, bringing with it a surging might towards the black-robed man. Hong, the spear slashed down furiously, causing the black-robed man to be forced to kneel on the ground. At lightning speed, the spear retracted and extended slightly. It was like a venomous snake. With an extremely fast retraction and extension, the tip of the spear pierced into the glabella of the black-robed man. The two black-robed men who had been fighting with Dongbu Shuiying for a breath's time were instantly killed. Haha. The 8 black-armored soldiers, 3 golden-armored captains and their commander who were watching from afar were all astonished when they saw this scene. His comprehension is quite high. The strength he exerted has increased in an instant. I guess he has another avatar studying under a time-accelerated environment. How fast can he improve? He is truly formidable. These old fellows were discussing and praising him. Up till now they did not know that Dongbu Shuiying had cultivated to become a stage 3 world deity in the shortest period of time in this universe epoch. Chapter 563. Tired. So tired. The scarlet cloud spear in Dongbu Shuiying's hands had already transformed into a blur. It was either sweeping left and right, stabbing forward, whipping furiously, or stabbing forward. Dongbu Shuiying was barely holding on under the attacks of the 18 black men. The number of enemies on the platform was increasing, and their strengths were also increasing. Dongbu Shuiying had already unleashed all of his strength, and his spear arts had already been pushed to the limits. Furthermore, the strength of the black men was already so strong that he was unable to kill them. When he was surrounded by 6 black men, Dongbu Shuiying felt that he was going to lose. However, he was unwilling to give up so easily. Hence, the number of black men continued to increase. Initially, he thought that he might not be able to hold on, but after giving it his all, he was still able to hold on. The black divine runes on the light barrier at the edge of the platform once again condensed into 3 black men. Again? Dongbu Shuiying couldn't be bothered anymore. All sorts of weapons danced in the air. Time and space were in disorder. Attacks came from the shadows. Some attacks were even faster than one could imagine. All sorts of attacks. Dongbu Shuiying tried his best to resist. Sometimes when he was helpless he would even use his body to block some of the attacks that weren't fatal. In an instant, wounds appeared on Dongbu Shuiying's body, and his entire body was covered in blood. 21 black men, 25 black men, 30 black men, 36 black men. When a total of 36 black men had gathered on the platform, each of them displayed their own techniques. The laws of profound mysteries they were proficient in were different as well. Their weapons were also different. For a moment, Dongbu Shuiying was completely stunned. It was only because he was unwilling to lose that he instinctively fought. Hong. Shuiying's body fiercely smashed backwards, colliding with the body of a black man. His spear was like a wave that swept out in all directions. In an instant there were over 1,000 ripples. In the blink of an eye, 8 black men in the surroundings were struck back, but even more black men rushed forward. Right at this moment, suddenly all the black men stopped and retreated rapidly. Some of them landed on the ground and dissipated the moment they touched the ground. Their energy returned to the divine runes on the ground. Some of them directly flew onto the light barrier of the battle platform, and their bodies also dissipated. The energy returned to the black divine patterns on the light barrier. In an instant, all 36 black-clothed men disappeared without a trace. Dongbu Shuiying stood there in a daze, holding the scarlet cloud spear in his hand, staring blankly at the 8 black-armored soldiers, 3 golden-armored captains and the Lord Commander. All of them looked at Dongbu Shuiying with smiles on their faces. "What are you looking at? You've won," the ape shouted. The commander looked at Dongbu Shuiying with a smile. "Congratulations on passing the second test, which was relatively easy." Relatively easy? Dongbu Shuiying was stunned for a moment before he heaved a sigh of relief. He felt as though he had just walked back from the edge of death. Isn't it a test of physical strength? My physical strength has long since reached the limit of what I can unleash. Why is it that the number of enemies keeps increasing? Even I didn't think that I would be able to last until now. The Lord Commander said calmly, "You might think that you have reached the limit of your strength, but a real battle will let you know that you still have potential. The second test is more of a test of your fighting spirit. A truly strong warrior must not give up easily, and must not admit defeat easily. The pressure on the battle platform will gradually increase, and the psychological pressure will be greater than the actual battle pressure. If you give up, it will only mean that your fighting spirit is not strong enough." Dongbu Shuiying was secretly grateful in his heart. He was grateful for the 6 ghost resentment hexing poison. At that time he was afflicted with the hexing poison, and was constantly being tortured. If he drank the medicinal liquid in advance, he would be able to alleviate the pain. But in order to survive he had to endure to the theoretical limit every time. This was because this kind of experience had lasted for over 100 years, and he had encountered it at a very young age. It had a huge impact on him. Even though he was much stronger than before, the gains he had gained when he was young were already deeply engraved in his bones. The first test will depend on your comprehension, and the second test will depend on your fighting spirit. These are not considered difficult. The commander smiled faintly. The third test is the truly difficult one. Those extremely outstanding true gods had passed through the first two tests, but in the end almost all of them failed at the last test. Only Pang Yi passed. What's the last test? Dongbo Shuang asked. 3 tests. Only the last test was left. If he passed, he would be able to join the army of destruction, and obtain the resources of this ancient army of destruction to groom his soldiers. This would definitely be of great help to his cultivation. The black armored soldiers and golden armored captains were all laughing. It's the last test. The last test is much harder than the previous one. All of them laughed weirdly as they looked at Dongbo Shuang, causing Dongbo Shuang to have a bad feeling. What kind of test was it? Only Pang Yi was able to pass the test that blocked the true gods of the deity world and abyss. It's very simple. The commander smiled faintly. Previously, I had already sealed your true deity heart. As long as you rely on your own willpower to break the seal within 10,000 years, you will have passed the test. What? Dongbo Shuang widened his eyes in shock. Senior Commander, are you not wrong? That's right. No one else can help you. You have to rely on yourself to break the seal. The commander calmly said. Dongbo Shuang stood there in a daze. He had never heard of such a point before. Now that his true deity heart was sealed, he was unable to use his world deity energy or luminous sun force. He could only control his own body's strength. This was of no help in breaking the seal. If he wanted to break the seal, other than external strength, then it would be the so-called willpower. Since external strength was forbidden, there was only a single path, to rely on willpower to break the seal. Using a strong willpower to break the seal? No wonder those true gods were unable to pass the test. However, Pang Yi had passed. The strength of the seal is different according to one's strength. The seal that true gods suffer is stronger. The seal that stage 4 world deities suffer is also stronger than yours. You are currently a stage 3 world deity, so the seal isn't too exaggerated. The commander calmly said, of course you have your weaknesses. Your true deity heart is that of a stage 3 world deity and isn't considered strong. You have cultivated for too short a period and your willpower has been tempered too little. Remember, you only have 10,000 years. Within 10,000 years, rely on your willpower to break the seal and successfully join our army of destruction. But if you can't break the seal, we have no other choice but to expel you. The commander said. Dongbo Shuang lightly nodded. He knew that he had no other path to take. However, in terms of willpower, his combat power was too weak when he participated in the Myriad Flower Feast. Coupled with the fact that the 3 ancestors and Blood Blade had restrained their strength, it was hard to determine how strong their willpower was. However, after establishing his own sect and traveling the world, the strongest willpower he had seen was the deceased Emperor Heavencloud. Even after so many years, his willpower still remained within his corpse and was branded in the void. Deity World, Bloodshed God Palace. Outside an ancient wooden house, Blood Blade was receiving his good friends. Only those with sufficiently high statuses were qualified to meet him. We'll discuss the details later. All right. Blood Blade had a simple discussion with the Abyss Ruler who was emitting a boundless bloody aura. After that, the Abyss Ruler's body abruptly dissipated, disappearing into nothingness. Gagaga, Blood Blade, are you going to fight again? The black bird on Blood Blade's shoulder called out. I'll just send a body over. I can't reject this matter. After all, he has helped me before, Blood Blade calmly said. He suddenly said, oh right, how is Snow Eagle now? He did not need to care too much about those he valued like Pang Yi or Monarch Green. After reaching the level of Monarch Green and the others, it would take a very long time for their combat power to increase even the slightest bit. It was only Dongbo Shuang who was currently undergoing rapid changes in his combat power that Blood Blade naturally paid attention to this disciple of his. The black bird hurriedly said, I heard that he entered the Lake Heart Island ruins and even saved Monarch Imo Shui. 9 Yang Palace Head and some other powerful existences are currently chasing after him. However, he has temporarily disappeared without a trace. Temporarily disappeared? Blood Blade turned his head over. His gaze was faint. Vaguely, a vast universe seemed to be evolving. Endless laws of profound mysteries appeared. For a moment, his gaze rapidly penetrated through the obstruction of the Lake Heart Island ruins. He even followed the karmic connection and tunneled into the interior of the Lake Heart Island, directly entering the destruction Eden. He's just a little brat. Instead of being a supervisor envoy properly, a stage 3 world deity overestimated his own strength and went to save someone. The corner of Bloodblade's mouth curled into a smile. He actually still tried to join the Lake Heart Island's army of destruction. Lake Heart Island's army of destruction? The Blackbird was shocked. In our deity world and abyss, it seems that only Pang Yi has successfully joined. Yes, joining is very difficult. Bloodblade nodded. If he really joins successfully and his combat power reaches the level of an almighty, I will raise his rank and give him a position with real power. This brat, he is so bored. If I don't give him something to do, who knows where he will go to? Are these ruins something he can go to now? There are some dangers that even I don't dare to face head-on. He sure is daring. Chapter 564. Inner World. Monarch Mo Shui was currently sitting in front of a bamboo house drinking warm tea, the tea mist rising slightly. Looking at the ripples on the vast lake in front of him, Monarch Mo Shui's mood was at ease. The bamboo house was built by him personally, selecting the bamboos one by one and chopping them. The tea leaves were also the leaves of a plant that he had been searching for a long time in the vast inner world. After his experiments, the taste was not bad. As for whether there was poison, to a stage 4 world deity, Monarch Mo Shui obviously did not care. What he cared about was the taste of the tea leaves. Such days Monarch Mo Shui enjoyed it very much. In fact, the nearer he got to death, Monarch Mo Shui instead became more calm. Father-in-law. Beside him condensed the translucent face of Dongbo Shuiying. Snow Eagle. Monarch Mo Shui looked at his son-in-law. What, did the test run into trouble again? The translucent face had a trace of distress, nodding. Yes, now is the final test. I would like to ask father-in-law to give me a pointer or two. Speak. Monarch Mo Shui asked. My true deity heart has been sealed, and now external help is forbidden. I have to break through the seal myself. The huge face sighed helplessly. I've never heard of it, relying on willpower to break through the seal. You haven't heard of it, it's because your knowledge is still lacking. Monarch Mo Shui said. Dongbo Shuiying was stunned. Can it be done? Yes. Monarch Mo Shui said, you should know the power of willpower. The huge face nodded. When he became a transcendent, one look, his willpower could form a substantial pressure, enough to make a mortal soul suffer an impact, collapse or even faint. And becoming a god, the god's willpower was even stronger. The pure willpower of a god, to a half-god it was fine, but to a mortal, it was a nightmare. One look and they would die. Once one became a world deity, the willpower of a world deity was even more terrifying. To a transcendent, it was like a boundless hell had descended. As for powerful existences, their willpower pressure did not need to talk about the impact on the soul. Even in the real world, the willpower pressure of a powerful existence was enough to completely disintegrate a 10,000 li area of land. Then you should also know the method to raise willpower? Monarch Mo Shui said. I only know of two methods. The first is to increase one's realm. The higher one's realm, the stronger their true deity heart. The will released by the true deity heart is naturally stronger. Dongbo Shuiying said. It was like comparing a 100 kilograms mortal to a 200 kilograms mortal. In terms of strength, the heavier one would naturally have a greater advantage. It was the same for cultivators. Those with higher realms would have more profound laws of heaven and earth contained within their true deity hearts. Their true deity hearts would be stronger, and their wills would naturally be different. The willpower of a mortal and an almighty being was naturally miles apart. The other method is to cultivate one's heart. Dongbo Shuiying said. A different state of mind would affect one's willpower as well. Thus, although they are all stage 4 world deities, there are some stage 4 world deities whose will is much stronger. Yes. Monarch Mo Shui nodded his head in agreement. To raise one's willpower, there are indeed only these two directions. One is to raise one's realm, the other is to cultivate one's heart. However, if you want to become a stage 4 world deity, you will still need some time. And if you raise your realm, I reckon that the test for you will also increase. Dongbo Shuiying nodded his head. The test that he was going through was a stage 3 world deity test. Once his strength broke through, he reckoned that the Lord Commander would increase the seal. Thus, you only have one path, cultivate one's heart. Monarch Mo Shui said. How do I cultivate my heart? Dongbo Shuang asked. He also knew about cultivating one's heart, but this was too unfathomable. Did he not see Emperor Heavenly Cloud's willpower pressure? It was stronger than many almighty beings. Could it be that almighty beings did not know how to cultivate their hearts? Monarch Imo Shui laughed. If you asked me before seeing my eldest daughter, I would not be able to explain it clearly. But now I can guide you. Dongbo Shui Ying's huge transparent face could not help but reveal joy and expectation. Cultivating one's heart, after reaching an extremely high realm, the true deity heart will be like colored glass and can release light. Monarch Imo Shui smiled. Observing one's own true deity heart, one can observe the light released by the true deity heart. My true deity heart does not release light. Dongbo Shuang said. I do. Monarch Imo Shui said. Dongbo Shuang stared blankly. You see. Monarch Imo Shui sat there, but there was a tiny Monarch Imo Shui flying out from between his eyebrows. Dongbo Shuang understood that this was his father-in-law's true deity heart. To release the true deity heart without any protection in front of him, it was clear that he had absolute trust in him. After all, to an expert, the true deity heart was the most important. And? Dongbo Shuang looked. That tiny Monarch Imo Shui's body was translucent, his expression serene, and his whole body was releasing light. This was a light visible to the naked eye. Cultivating a pure heart, the true deity heart will naturally release light. The experts of the deity world and abyss all call this light the light of will. Monarch Imo Shui said. To be able to let the true deity heart release light of will, it is clear that one's heart cultivation has already reached an extremely high realm. I heard that above this, there is an even higher realm in cultivating the heart. It's just that I'm not too clear. How to cultivate the heart, to be able to have light of will? Dongbo Shuang asked. Cultivating the heart, how can there be an absolutely clear method? Monarch Imo Shui said. I can only tell you when you have no confusion, no worries, no fear, your heart is empty, pressing forward with indomitable will, your mind is one, your true deity heart will be like colored glass, releasing a great light. Dongbo Shuang softly chanted. No confusion, no worries, no fear, heart is empty, pressing forward with indomitable will, mind is one? I originally had many worries and uneasiness. Monarch Imo Shui sighed with a smile. But knowing that my daughter has become a stage 4 world deity, and my son-in-law is a personal disciple of God Emperor, I immediately had no more doubts and worries. Only then did I head to the Lake Heart Island ruins. What a joke, that Nine-Yang Palace had brought us stage 4 world deities, is also to make us pawns. There are some dangers and let us go. I have no fear of danger and instead took the initiative to drill into some places, allowing me to obtain the true God weapon first. Haha, it sounds nice. Everyone charge together, and if you want to obtain the treasure, it will depend on your own ability. But in the end, I obtained the true God weapon, but didn't that Nine-Yang Palace head still want to snatch it? Monarch Imo Shui shook his head. Dongbo Shuang listened and sighed. Indeed. Usually, when joining hands to explore a certain place, the truly precious treasures would be very hard to distribute. It would all depend on one's own ability. Moreover, before the true treasures are full, who would care about it? True God weapon, the implications are extremely huge. It is said to be of great help to almighty existences stepping into the paragon level. Monarch Imo Shui said. In front of this level of treasure, who would still be modest? In the end, it was me who was the least afraid of death who obtained it first. The more afraid of death, the lower the possibility of obtaining the treasure. Let's not talk about this anymore. Monarch Imo Shui looked at Dongbo Shuang, smiling. You brat, because of me this old man you still painstakingly ran over, risking your life for me? Sai, aren't you just fine being an examiner? After some time, when you become a stage 4 world deity, I'm afraid that His Majesty God Emperor will focus even more on nurturing you, but for me you risked your life to enter Lake Heart Island. Relax, relax. After returning from Lake Heart Island, I will definitely be more cautious in the future. Dongbo Shuang said. Lake Heart Island was indeed too dangerous for him. Even in the most ordinary region, those black armored monsters were extremely dangerous. Fortunately, he had moved together with Monarch Armadillo Jade and the others, and had luckily gambled on the blazing blood door, winning the gamble. If not because of this gamble, he would not have entered Destruction Eden later on, even though he had experienced a lot this time. But Dongbo Shuang still decided that, without special reasons like saving his father-in-law, he would definitely not enter some places that exceeded his strength. Lake Heart Island, after all, was one of the best ruins in the entire deity world and abyss. Until now, the only special place he had entered was Destruction Eden, and that was because he was escaping from the pursuit of Nine Yang Palace Head. There were many other special regions that he did not dare to enter. I know that you are cautious. Being cautious is a good thing. With a cautious heart, you can walk far on the road of cultivation. Monarch Mo Shui said. Regarding cultivating the heart, remember what I said. You can slowly experience it yourself. This point no one can help you. Amen. Dongbo Shuang nodded. His father-in-law had already helped him a lot. No perplexity, no worries, no fear, an empty state of mind, courageously advancing, a single thought in his heart. The 6 words his father-in-law said sounded very clear, but any one of them was very difficult. No perplexity. Even among the high and mighty world deities, how many of them were truly without perplexity? Chapter 565. No worries. How hard was it to have no worries? Even stage 4 world deities were worried that they would not be able to transcend. They were desperately thinking of ways to transcend. No fear. Facing people like Bloodblade and Temporal Island Lord, one must not be afraid. Facing death, no matter how terrifying the danger, one must not be afraid. An empty state of mind, that in itself was a form of transcendence. Advancing courageously, not being disturbed by anything, having no distractions, and having a strong belief to advance courageously. Not those who were like skeletons waiting for death. If Monarch Mo Shui was waiting for death, he probably wouldn't have reached such a level. He was fearless and without worries but still had a strong desire. Going to the Lake Heart Island historical remnant was for his daughter and for himself. He was also searching for opportunities to break through. One's thoughts pure. Pure thoughts. No distractions. Just one was hard enough, but to do all of them was even harder. Within the destruction paradise, Dongbo Shuiying sat at the edge of the platform, looking at the continuous mountain range. He was deep in thought, asking himself again and again. Dongbo brat, it is very difficult to break the seal with your willpower. A black-armored ape sat next to him and kept croaking. At your level, some pain and suffering are useless to you. You need to comprehend it yourself. Back then, the Lake Heart Island master cultivated his heart and Tao here. Legend has it that with the magical robe on his body, he would shine with boundless light. Every living being in the universe, even those mortals, seemed to have seen a figure emitting boundless light. That time, the Lake Heart Island master truly reached the peak, becoming a supreme existence. Dongbo Shuiying was shocked when he heard this. The entire universe, every living being seemed to have seen a figure emitting boundless light? This power was too unbelievable. Even if the universe was destroyed and entered a new epoch or even your epoch, the Lake Heart Island still exists perfectly. Even your epoch hasn't been able to enter the true core of the Lake Heart Island. Can be seen how powerful Master is. The monkey sighed. Shuiying nodded in praise. It is indeed amazing. Our army of destruction's consummate skills were created by Master. Soldiers, captains, and commanders learn consummate skills that grow stronger and stronger. Even soldiers' unique skill is enough to make countless real gods go crazy. The monkey shook his head. Dongbo boy, cultivate your mind well. Compared to my master, as long as you have a 10,000th of my master's cultivation of mind, you will be able to break through the seal. Yuan Ho found Dongbo Shuiying pleasing to the eye, which was why he said so much. Understood. Come try it. Dongbo Shuiying flipped his hand and took out a gourd of wine, handing it to the monkey and a black gourd of wine for himself. Fruit wine. The monkey immediately took it and drank. Tsk. His mouth was filled with wine. Haha, although we are neither dead nor alive, we still have our sense of touch and smell. This wine tastes pretty good. Dongbo Shuiying stood up. Senior, can I walk around the destruction paradise as I please? Feel free to wander around. Some of the important places are directly isolated by formations, and some places will expel you even if you barge in. There's no danger, said the monkey. All right. Dongbo Shuiying tapped his feet on the ground. Shoo. He immediately turned into a stream of light and flew above the mountains. Although he was unable to use his world deity energy or luminous sun force, with his powerful world deity body, he was still able to execute many techniques. Pressing forward with indomitable will and having one mind. These 2 points aren't difficult for me. Dongbo Shuiying looked at the mountains below and pondered. When he was a young mortal, he already had the ability to press forward with indomitable will and practice his spear for a long period of time. This could be considered his talent. He was able to discard all distracting thoughts and focus on a single goal. No fear. No matter how powerful an expert is, I can only revere them but not fear them. Even death won't make me feel fear. Why would I need to fear experts and be afraid of danger? No perplexity, no worries. Dongbo Shuang pondered. These were the two most difficult points. As long as these 2 points were resolved, there would be no confusion, no worries, no fear, an indomitable will, and a pure mind. It would be very easy for such an expert to have an empty mind. How can there be no perplexity? How can there be no worries? I care about the Xia people, I worry about my son and daughter, my wife Jingqiu's safety, and my good friend, brother Eternal Wind, who is still suffering in the dark abyss. Dongbo Shuang thought. There were too many worries and it was impossible for him to be free of them. Even now, I am worried that I can't break the seal with my will in 10,000 years. There's also perplexity. There are many things in the deity world, dark abyss, and the material realm that I don't know. In the eyes of Master, I'm still very immature. There are many things that he hasn't told me, such as the historical remains in Lake Heart Island. Dongbo Shuang thought. Sacred Master Crimson Dust was already dead. How much could Crimson Rock know? Jingqiu was only a stage 3 world deity in her previous life. Even Monarch Mo Shui was only a stage 4 world deity and not a powerful existence. The secrets that they knew were still too little. There are too many perplexities even in cultivation. Maybe Master doesn't want things to be too smooth for me, and wants me to break through some of these perplexities? Dongbo Shuang sighed. Perplexity, worry, how can I be free of perplexity and worry? I really have to be like father-in-law. My true deity heart is about to collapse and I'm also close to death. Only then did I really open my mind. No more perplexity, no more worry? Dongbo Shuang thought. He even imagined himself about to die and open his mind to everything. But no matter how he imagined it, it was still fake. Perplexity and worry were like invisible ropes wrapping around him, and he couldn't completely empty his mind. Emperor Heavenly Cloud, with such a strong will, his cultivation heart is probably not inferior to my father-in-law, maybe even higher. Dongbo Shuang kept thinking. Flying in the destruction paradise. He even walked into some strange caves. He walked around and saw all kinds of strange scenes. Occasionally he would meet the 8 soldiers and 3 captains of the army of destruction. While walking around, Dongbo Shuang kept asking himself about his heart. Not only him, but even the white-robed Dongbo Shuang in the Red Rock Mountain of the Xia people's world was also walking in the world, trying to find some inspiration from the fate of other living beings. Time passed year after year. In the blink of an eye, his true deity heart had been sealed for more than 5,000 years. Halfway up a tall mountain, Shuang was currently standing on top of a huge boulder. His right hand was currently holding onto a strange tricolored flower. He was laughing loudly with his head raised. His laughter rumbled and countless ripples swept out in all directions, causing the entire mountain to tremble. No perplexity, I am really stupid. The world is so wonderful, full of countless unknowns, I need to explore, I need to discover. Dongbo Shuang looked at the tricolored flower in his hand. If I know everything in the world, there will be no secrets, then this world will be too boring. Just now he found this tricolored flower and he was immediately stunned. What a beautiful flower, it was bright and beautiful, the color was beautiful, the fragrance was mesmerizing, and it emitted a deep sense of vitality. At this moment, Dongbo Shuang came to a realization. All the unknowns are the gifts of the world to us living beings, we need to explore to comprehend. This is the journey of life. Dongbo Shuang's heart was suddenly enlightened, and he felt much more relaxed. In fact, even the mysterious island in the lake, he no longer felt the slightest bit of fear but curiosity. He was like a child looking at the world with curious eyes. On the island in the lake, Dongbo Shuang was filled with curiosity. He really wanted to explore the entire place to understand it clearly. However, he knew that he was still too weak. The journey ahead is still long, let's take it slow. Dongbo Shuang smiled. His heart was no longer perplexed. At this moment, he could feel that his true deity heart was much smoother, and his will had become stronger. Brat, what are you laughing at? A low roar came from the bottom of the mountain. Dongbo Shuang was stunned. He immediately flew out. Xiao, turning into a twisting beam of light, he arrived at the source of the voice. At the bottom of the mountain there was a cave, and in the cave there were many thick and long chains. The chains were binding a tall and muscular man with red skin, red beard, and red eyebrows. His eyes were emitting a monstrous rage, and his aura was surging, as though he was a huge volcano that had been suppressed for billions of years. You are Paragon Huaqing? Dongbo Shuang was shocked. A paragon of the deity world, whose strength was on the same level as the three ancestors, had disappeared for billions of years, and was actually imprisoned here? Hee hee brat, you know me? The muscular man with red beard and red eyebrows grinned. Chapter 566. The third chapter. Dongbo Shuang looked at Paragon Huaqing, who was tied up in the dark cave, and laughed. In the god world, as long as it's a well-informed world deity, how many of them wouldn't know of Paragon Huaqing? Ah. Even though Paragon Huaqing was tied up, he was still grinning proudly. He then asked curiously, "Why are you in the destruction paradise too?" "I'm going through a test and wish to join the army of destruction," Dongbo Shuang said. "With just you?" Paragon Huaqing shook his head and curled his lips. His actions caused the chains to rattle. Red hair. A golden light descended. It was a golden-armored handsome man. The golden-armored handsome man sneered, "Don't look down on this brat Dongbo. Dongbo brat has already passed 2 tests and is now going through the final one. As long as he passes, he will be a member of my army of destruction. Haven't you been crying and begging us to send your doppelganger out? Without any special reason, we are unable to leave the destruction paradise. But this brat Dongbo is different. He is a real life and can freely enter and exit the Lake Heart Island. Once he joins my army of destruction, he can bring his avatar out." Avatar? Dongbo Shuang looked at Paragon Huaqing in shock. Paragon Huaqing gave an awkward smile. His red-bearded face seemed to turn even redder. His face was originally red, so there wasn't much difference even if his face turned redder. Back then, a clone of mine entered the Lake Heart Island. I was too daring and got into big trouble and was imprisoned here. Who would have thought that my true body in the god world was plotted against and lost its life because of helping a good friend? I was only left with a body and was imprisoned here with no way to return. However, a new clone has been born in my inner world. I asked the army of destruction to help me, but they only imprisoned one of my bodies. I asked them to send the other clone out to regain its freedom, but they didn't agree at all. I hope you pass the test. When the time comes, help me bring my avatar out." Paragon Huaqing casually said, Actually I don't have much confidence in you. Other than Pang Yi, no one has successfully joined the army of destruction. If I fail the test, can I bring your clone out?" Dongbo Shuang asked. "If we take him out." These were venerable level existences. Why would they be afraid of being surrounded by the Nanyang Palace head? "No way." Paragon Huaqing said helplessly, "I am a serious criminal. Only soldiers of the army of destruction can enter this cave and get close to me." Dongbo Shuang tried walking over. But when he reached the entrance of the cave, a layer of restriction arrays appeared around him. Divine inscriptions swirled around him, making it impossible for him to pass through. "I've been trapped for 113. For billion years. How pitiful, how pitiful." Paragon Huaqing sighed. Although he sounded pitiful, he did not feel the slightest bit unhappy. Even though this was the first time Dongbo Shuang had interacted with him, he felt that Paragon Huaqing was indeed a weird person. If he was imprisoned for such a long time, it would be hard for him to laugh. "Dongbo brat, what's your full name?" Paragon Huaqing asked. "Senior, how long has it been since you contacted the outside world?" Dongbo Shuang did not answer him directly. "Very long, I guess. Anyway, none of them can save me. My master and Pang Yi have some enmity, but master isn't willing to appear. Even though master is a dominator-level existence, this is the destruction paradise. It has the arrays and energy set up by the Lake Heart Island master. Master doesn't dare to barge in." Paragon Huaqing curled his lips. "At the start, there were some old friends who would occasionally contact me. But later on the contact became less and less. Only my master would occasionally contact me through karma." Dongbo Shuang was puzzled. He could not help but ask, "Paragon Huaqing, your master is a dominator-level existence? I wonder who it is." Dominator-level existences could be counted on one's fingers. Just Blood Blade and the others, he had never heard of anyone being Paragon Huaqing's master. "My master is called Primal Master. He is the most ancient dominator of the deity world and abyss." Paragon Huaqing's eyes were filled with respect and a hint of fanaticism. "Most ancient dominator? Primal Master?" Dongbo Shuang was puzzled. He had never heard of it before. Paragon Huaqing sneered at the sight. Dong Bo brat, not every ruler wants to occupy a territory and not every ruler wants to be famous. In the deity world, there are 3 dominators that countless living beings know of. They are the sinister temporal island master, the overbearing blood blade, and the low-profile myriad god palace master. In reality, other than the 3 of them, there are 2 others who don't care about territory or fame. One is my master, primal master. He was the first to become a dominator after the birth of the deity world. The other is Empress Jianghu. She is the only female dominator in the deity world and abyss. Dongbo Shui Ying's heart stirred. He thought of one person. Back when the myriad flower feast was held, the ones seated at the highest seats, other than his master blood blade, there were also 2 dominators from the dark abyss and a graceful and elegant woman with a reserved and gentle aura. At that time Dongbo Shuang was puzzled. Who was this woman? Her position seemed to be much higher than the 3 ancestors. My deity world actually has 5 dominators. Dongbo Shuang sighed. When you become a powerful existence or live longer, you will know about it. Paragon Huocheng said casually. What about the dark abyss? Dongbo Shuang asked. Dark abyss, there are only 3 of them. There is nothing to hide. Paragon Huocheng said casually. Dongbo Shuang asked. Then including Primal Master and Empress Jianghu, who is the strongest dominator in our deity world? Bloodblade. No one is his match in a head-on battle. Paragon Huocheng said. Dongbo Shuang nodded his head. Didn't Senior ask for my name? I am Dongbo Shuang. I am the personal disciple of God Emperor. Paragon Huocheng's lips twitched. He didn't find it strange. After all, to be able to pass 2 trials, one was extraordinary in the deity world. You brat, you are still showing off in front of me. Paragon Huocheng was rather polite. After all, he had a favor to ask. You had better hurry up and cultivate. Don't waste time and pass the trials. I am waiting for you to save me. As long as you save me, this great karma of saving my life. I Paragon Huocheng will never forget it. Once I get out, I will give you a great benefit. Great benefit? Dongbo Shuang was shocked. But it might not be of much use to you. After all, you are too weak. It might be useful to your master blood blade instead. Paragon Huocheng said, as long as you save me, I Huocheng will be your big brother. If you need anything, just call me. He had been imprisoned for too long. If he could be saved, the karma would be too great. He had once thought of ways to get Pang Yi to help him. However, Pang Yi had a conflict with his master Yuan Chu. Other than Pang Yi, no one in the entire deity world and abyss could save him. Don't worry, I will give it a try. Dongbo Shuang said. Helping such an expert was the same as sending karma. If he could help, he would definitely help. Dongbo Shuang chatted with Paragon Huocheng for half a day. He understood many secrets of the deity world and abyss. He then continued walking in the destruction paradise, questioning his own heart and analyzing it. Years passed. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 years were almost up. There was only a month left to the deadline. What should I do? Dongbo Shuang sat cross-legged by the lake. He looked at the lake water in front of him. 10,000 years were about to pass. There was only a month left. The anxiety had completely affected his emotions. 10,000 years are about to end. My will is still unable to break the seal. Hope is slim. Dongbo Shui Ying's eyes were originally filled with anxiety. Even his cross-legged body found it hard to calm down. But all of a sudden he completely relaxed. Forget it. If there's really no other way, I can only fail. Monarch Emo Shui, I have let him down. Dongbo Shuang thought. Actually, Monarch Emo Shui had already consoled him. After all, he had lived for an extremely long time. And this time, Dongbo Shuang had already done enough. In his heart, he faintly understood that it was impossible for him to succeed. He started to prepare himself for failure. At this moment, his original anxiety was completely gone. Instead, he was calm and relaxed. Dongbo Shui Ying's body trembled. His eyes lit up. It's precisely because I have so much to worry about. My hometown, my children, my wife, cultivation, transcending and becoming a powerful existence. I think too much. That's why I'm filled with anxiety. Dongbo Shuang gradually understood. But so what if it's worse? My children have already lived for tens of thousands of years. Adding in the time acceleration, it would be even longer. My wife has lived even longer. Compared to countless mortals, they have lived for a very, very long time. Even I, Dongbo Shuang, have lived for far too long. How many mortals have had such experiences? So what if I don't become a powerful existence? After living for hundreds of millions of years, What's there to be unresigned about? At this moment, Dongbu Shuang was no longer worried. Instead, he was satisfied and grateful. He was grateful to fate. He was grateful to everything. It allowed him to have a wife and children. It allowed them to live such a good life. No confusion, no worries, no fear. His heart was clear and bright. His heart was pure. He pressed forward courageously. His heart was filled with gratitude. He was curious about the future. He wanted to explore this world that was filled with wonders. On this path of cultivation, he would work hard to advance. He would break through all obstacles and protect everything that he valued. Within Dongbu Shuiying's sea of consciousness, that tiny little person, Dongbu Shuiying, started to turn slightly transparent. At this moment it started to emit light. Chapter 567. Break for me. The body of the tiny person Dongbu Shuiying was like glass, emitting rays of light. He raised his head and let out an angry roar. His eyes suddenly erupted with a terrifying will. Hong. The will erupted from the true deity's heart. It was even more vast and ferocious than before, pressing forward with an indomitable will. Ka. A layer of blurry gray energy appeared on the surface of the true deity's heart. Many cracks appeared on the gray energy, and under the continuous attacks of the powerful will, the gray energy was finally torn apart. Following which, the gray energy melted like snow and disappeared. Dongbu Shuiying, who was sitting cross-legged by the lake, opened his eyes and looked forward. A terrifying will was released from his eyes, and the space in front of him was completely distorted. It directly swept across an area of hundreds of thousands of li, and even the surface of the lake had caved in. This was because a large amount of the lake water on the surface had disintegrated into nothingness. The powerful will directly affected reality, causing the thick layer of lake water within hundreds of thousands of li to disintegrate into nothingness. When Dongbu Shuiying closed his eyes and retracted his will, he opened his eyes again. The huge hole in the middle of the lake caused a large amount of lake water to surge violently. So. Numerous figures streaked across the sky and landed. They were the 3 golden-armored captains, 8 black-armored soldiers, and the black-cloaked Lord Commander who had rushed over. All of them looked at Dongbu Shuiying with bright eyes. Welcome to us. The Lord Commander grinned. Welcome, brother. All of them looked at Dongbu Shuiying with smiles on their faces. They were neither alive nor dead, and they were too lonely. Every time a new cultivator joined the army of destruction, it made them feel as though the army of destruction still existed. It was as though they were still in the same era of the universe. Dongbu Shuiying looked at them and smiled. Brother Pang Yi, Dongbu Shuiying has passed the test and officially joined our army of destruction. The commander informed another member of the army of destruction, Pang Yi. Then he walked to Dongbu Shuiying and said, Dongbu Shuiying, you are better than I expected. You are the first universe god in the 3rd heaven to pass the test. From today onwards, you are a soldier of the army of destruction. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. When you become a stage 4 world deity, you will be qualified to apply for the captain level test, and even the commander level test, the commander said. Alright, follow me to collect your weapon first. It's a true divinity artifact. The monkey beside him snickered. Dongbu Shuiying was also looking forward to it. So. The group of them quickly streaked across the sky and rushed in another direction. It was a magnificent and huge palace that was even taller than ordinary mountains. The door of the palace was pushed open. The commander brought his subordinates in while Dongbu Shuiying looked on in anticipation. Look. The commander pointed afar. Dongbu Shuiying looked. In the huge palace, there were a total of 8 light pillars and each light pillar contained a weapon. Now there are only 8 true divinity artifacts left. Hence, the army of destruction is stricter in recruiting soldiers. Choose one. The commander recalled when he had first joined. He was brought here too. Back then, the general of the army of destruction had asked him to choose a weapon. The general of the army of destruction was also the brother of the owner of Lake Heart Island and his master uncle. 8 true god weapons. Shuiying glanced over and could not help but feel vexed. Among these true god weapons there were 3 blades. One was a scimitar, one was a heavy machete, and one was a rather ordinary long blade, a sword, a shield, a long rod, a flying blade, and an umbrella. No spear. Dongbu Shuiying was helpless. You seem to use a spear. Unfortunately, there aren't many who use spears. We didn't have many and we ran out long ago. The commander said from the side. Shuiying could only walk forward, getting close to each of the light pillars to begin sensing them. Very quickly, Dongbo Shuiying walked to the second last light pillar. Within the light pillar was a flying blade which was hidden in a sheath. The moment Dongbo Shuiying got close, he sensed the aura of the true divinity artifact and his heart jumped. It was a special aura. It seemed ethereal and illusory. There was a feeling of mirage. However, within the ethereal aura, there was a hidden killing intent. This killing intent was hidden, and once it exploded, it would definitely be terrifying. This seems good, Dongbo Shuiying thought. None of these weapons were suitable for him, but the aura of this flying blade was quite compatible with him. He had comprehended the true meaning of mirage when he was a transcendent. Moreover, one of his 3 secret skills was the destruction, which was filled with killing intent. Dongbo Shuiying went to feel the last umbrella. That umbrella gave off a strange feeling that made it hard to tell the direction. Dongbo Shuiying temporarily gave up on it. Every single one of these true divinity artifacts was amazing, but he had to choose one that was suitable for him. This was what he was good at. It would be easier for him to refine the true divinity artifact. Even using the true divinity artifact to comprehend would be helpful. I'll choose this. Dongbo Shuiying walked back to the light pillar of the flying blade and looked at it silently. Are you done choosing? The Lord Commander asked. I'll choose this. Dongbo Shuiying pointed at the light pillar in front of him. You won't regret it? The Lord Commander asked again. There's no way to change this. Amen. Dongbo Shuiying nodded. The Lord Commander extended his hand and the light pillar dissipated. The flying blade slowly flew towards Dongbo Shuiying and stopped in front of Dongbo Shuiying. Dongbo Shuiying extended his hand and grabbed the flying blade. He then tried to sense and refine it. Dongbo Shuiying felt as though he had entered a world of darkness. This world seemed very real, but strangely, it felt a little illusory at the same time. This made Dongbo Shuiying suspicious because he was most proficient in the profound mysteries of the world. However, this world of darkness gave him a completely different feeling. This is a mirage. However, the mirage has already developed a sense of reality. Dongbo Shuiying thought. This mirage. It had surpassed the normal rules of the world. Following that, in this world of darkness, Dongbo Shuiying saw a bit of light. In a flash, it appeared in front of him and disappeared. Dongbo Shuiying. The Lord Commander opened his mouth and woke Dongbo Shuiying, who was immersed in it. A true god weapon is extraordinary. You are not even a world deity of the fourth heaven. You are still far from being able to refine it. The Lord Commander said, keep it well and comprehend it when you return. Amen. Dongbo Shuiying nodded. The profoundness of the true god weapon was something that even Nine Yang Palace head and the others desired to comprehend. One could see how profound it was. This was also the first time Shuiying had discovered that the mirage could actually transform into a real world. Furthermore, that final ray of light had caused his heart to palpitate and its power to be terrifying. To refine and use it would probably take a few days. His wife had obtained the true god weapon for so long and her realm was higher than his. However, she had yet to fully refine and control it. Only by completely mastering it would he be able to unleash the power of a true god weapon. Let's go. You have yet to learn the absolute art. The Lord Commander brought his subordinates out of the palace and streaked across the sky. Very soon, they all landed at the stone pillars where they first learned the 10-world annihilation fire secret technique. You have only learned the 8th level of this secret technique. Finish learning it first. The Lord Commander said, these world deity level secret techniques, according to our rules, you can only learn one during the test. Once you pass the test, you will receive the complete version. After that, you will have to make contributions before you can learn more secret techniques. These world deity level secret techniques are only a few steps away from absolute arts and are very precious. However, the army of destruction does not have any missions and you will not have the chance to make contributions. Hence, you can only learn this one. You will not have the chance to learn anything else. Dongbo Shuiying did not mind and immediately learned the complete 10-world annihilation fire. Long, in the middle of the many stone pillars, a black stone pillar suddenly protruded out. Many blood-colored characters appeared on the black stone pillar. This is an absolute art that only the soldiers of the army of destruction can learn. Those true gods desire to learn it but do not have the chance. The Lord Commander said, this was created by my teacher. Although its power is weaker than the captain and commander rank secret techniques, the difficulty of learning it is much lower. Chapter 568. The army of destruction carried out the will of the Lake Heart Island master. They fought everywhere and killed anyone who dared to provoke them. Back in his era, this army was the most invincible army. It was an army that made other forces feel fear. Even the weakest soldier could make the enemy feel fear and difficult to deal with. They were all extremely strong, fast, and had invincible defense. They were all monsters that could destroy the world. How could they fight against them? Why were they so strong? It was because of the absolute arts created by the Lake Heart Island master. The three absolute arts were cultivated by the soldiers, captains, and commanders respectively. The difficulty of cultivation was also higher. The soldiers cultivated the extreme annihilation mysterious body, which had a lower difficulty. This is called low difficulty? Dongbo Shuang was speechless. The extreme annihilation mysterious body had a total of 6 levels. World gods corresponded to the first 4 levels. True gods cultivated to the 5th level. True gods cultivated to the 6th level. However, Dongbo Shuang only needed a brief experience to realize that the difficulty of the extreme annihilation mysterious body was comparable to the 4th transformation of the luminous sun. From this, one could see that the absolute arts that Blood Blade had painstakingly obtained could be imparted to his disciple. However, the Lake Heart Island master directly imparted it to the soldiers of the army of destruction. Of course, even in the era of the Lake Heart Island master, the army of destruction was his most important army. Moreover, it was extremely difficult to join. Although it was learned by the soldiers, this absolute art was still extremely valuable. Cultivating this extreme annihilation mysterious body requires many external materials. Logically speaking, many of them need to be exchanged with contribution points. The commander asked, "However, there are no more missions now. Therefore, I will give you some materials. It should be sufficient for you to cultivate the first 4 levels. As for the rest, you will have to rely on yourself." "Thank you, Commander," Dongbo Shuang said gratefully. In the Red Rock Mountain of the Xia people's world, the white-robed Dongbo Shuang had already started to try cultivating the absolute art under the time acceleration of 10,000 times. After so many years of cultivation, especially when he had reached the 4th level of the luminous sun, and reached the 7th level of the 10-world annihilation fire, his cultivation level had deepened, and his understanding of the laws and profound mysteries had deepened. Hence, he only spent slightly more than a year's time to comprehend the first 3 levels of extreme annihilation mysterious body completely. As for the 4th level, it was too difficult and he had to become a universe god of the 4th heaven before he could master it. Crackle. White-robed Dongbo Shuang immediately started cultivating on Crimson Dust Island. This absolute art was very special. The external materials were mainly used to condense body armor. On the other hand, simply evolving one's body to greatly increase one's strength and speed did not require external items. It really hurts. Dongbo Shuang could feel that his entire body was being reconstructed. His particles were also evolving into a mixed origin world, just that it was more stable, able to withstand impacts and increase the explosive speed. Moreover, the biggest difference between it and the time immemorial body was that the countless particles in Dongbo Shuang's body were more tightly bound to each other. It could be said that after cultivating this technique, the particle density in Dongbo Shuang's body had increased by 10 times. A terrifying power flowed within his body. White-robed Dongbo Shuang opened his eyes. He had a feeling that if he were to unleash the power of his body, even the treasure spirit of Crimson Rock Mountain would not be able to suppress it, and the entire Crimson Dust Island would collapse. What a powerful strength. Even its ability to withstand attacks far surpasses the time immemorial body. Dongbo Shuang exclaimed, "Moreover, it even has an armor." Over at the ruins of Lake Heart Island. Not even 2 hours had passed. Black-robed Dongbo Shuang had already cultivated the extreme annihilation mysterious body to the 3rd level. The difference between him and his true body was that he could borrow the external materials given to him by the commander to cultivate a body armor. The body armor could be fused with the skin layer, or it could be completely exposed. When it was completely exposed, the armor would be fixed in place, and the degree of defense would increase by a level. Hence, to kill a soldier, the attack would first land on the armor. Only after passing through the armor would the attack be transmitted to the body, which could withstand far more attacks than the time immemorial body. Naturally, it would be harder to injure the soldier. Rumble, surging power surged within his body. On one hand, it was the power of his muscles and bones. On the other hand, it was the luminous sun force of the 4th transformation realm. These two types of power combined and complemented each other, allowing Dongbua Shuiying to reach an even higher level. Dongbua Shuiying lowered his head to look at his hands and lightly clenched them. Rumble, faintly, a world crack could be seen in his palms. Its might caused the commander, the 3 golden-armored captains, and the 8 black-armored soldiers to be slightly shocked. It seems that the absolute art that you originally possessed is also proficient in strength. The commander praised. My previous absolute art also required the help of my fleshly body to be able to better execute it. Now, the extreme annihilation mysterious body is able to complement it. Dongbua Shuiying stood up. Commander, captains, brothers, I still have matters to attend to and must leave immediately. Hence, I can only take my leave. Emin, brat, if you have nothing to do, try to chat with us. As a soldier of the Army of Destruction, he still had some other items. For example, tokens, communication items, and other unimportant items. With the help of these items, he could chat with them frequently. Definitely. Dongbua Shuiying said. Are you leaving now? The commander asked. I wish to go and help Paragon Huocheng. Dongbua Shuiying said. The golden-armored handsome youth by the side sneered. That barbaric fellow, you are really helping him? In the past they were too lazy to help and the other reasons were all fake. If they truly wanted to help, they would have long thrown Paragon Huocheng's avatar out through the spatial whirlpool. However, they did not do anything because they did not treat Paragon Huocheng as one of their own. As for Dongbua Shuiying and Pang Yi who had joined the Army of Destruction, they had clearly treated them as one of their own. Very soon, Dongbua Shuiying arrived outside the cave where Paragon Huocheng was imprisoned. As a soldier of the Army of Destruction, he was no longer obstructed by the array, and could bring away Paragon Huocheng's avatar. As for the avatar that was imprisoned here, it could not escape and had to endure the punishment. Who asked him to stir up trouble in the past? Ah, you succeeded? Waha, Huocheng, can finally go out, I can finally go back. Paragon Huocheng was so excited that he cried out. He was too excited. He had been imprisoned for too long, and he even felt that it was possible for the entire universe to enter the Great Apocalypse. That would be too sad. Clearly, fate had given him a chance, allowing Dongbua Shuiying to come here. Brother Dongbua, from today onwards you are my brother. Haha, I have said before that I will definitely give you great benefits when we get out. This is my greatest reward in Lakeheart Island. Originally, I only wanted to inform my master, but now I will share it with you. Paragon Huocheng was so excited that he was speaking incoherently. Senior Huocheng, let's go out first. We can talk after we get out. Dongbua Shuiying said. Senior? We are brothers. Paragon Huocheng shouted out. Lord Commander shook his head when he saw this. He then said to Dongbua Shuiying, Snow Eagle, if you wish to leave Lakeheart Island, I can send you out from the Destruction Paradise. There's no need for you to pass through the water layer outside. It's fine. I will go to the periphery of Lakeheart Island first. Dongbua Shuiying said. He still had to take care of his wife. He couldn't possibly run away with his father-in-law and leave Jingqiu there, right? Huocheng. Brother Huocheng, there might be some trouble if we go out. The one leading them is Nianyang Palace Head. Dongbua Shuiying said. Nianyang, is he even worthy of being called trouble? Paragon Huocheng sneered. 100 billion years ago, Paragon Huocheng was already a Paragon realm existence. Looking at the entire deity world and abyss, there were not many who could be his opponent. Other than ruler realm existences, there were some other great experts who were also paragons. Even Dongbua Shuiying's senior apprentice brother Monarch Guzong hadn't reached the paragon level and couldn't be compared to Paragon Huocheng. Very soon. Who? From the closest spatial whirlpool, Dongbua Shuiying rushed out and entered the icy cold passageway. I'm finally out again. Dongbua Shuiying revealed a smile. Nianyang Palace Head, who was sitting cross-legged on a huge ice block, opened his eyes. He turned and looked towards a direction. Dongbua Shuiying is out. It wasn't just him. Withered Tree Old Mother and the other 3 had also used karma to discover the location where Dongbua Shuiying had appeared. Surround him. Don't let him escape this time. Nianyang Palace Head's eyes flashed with a cold light as he gave the order. Chapter 569. The old granny who was leaning on a wooden walking stick also turned into a ray of light, flying in the deep and cold ice cave passage. Her long hair grew rapidly, turning into many gray-brown tree roots. One by one the tree roots broke apart and a total of 9 tree roots broke apart. These 9 tree roots also turned into a gray-robed old granny. The 9 gray-robed old granny also flew at high speed. Following the fork in the road, they immediately split up, and quickly surrounded him from different directions. Humph. Withered tree old mother's eyes were filled with coldness. Little fellow, let's see where you can escape to this time. 9 young palace head, prison dragon emperor, sovereign Zhe Nua and red transient empress all quickly closed in on Dongbu Shuiying from their respective positions. They had waited for so long, naturally they were not willing to let Dongbu Shuiying escape. In the icy cold ice passage, Dongbu Shuiying was not the slightest bit nervous. He even felt the cold air and revealed a smile, enjoying this beautiful world. The final test in the destruction paradise allowed him to go through a 10,000-year journey of questioning his heart, and also made his state of mind even more pure and clear, and even more undisturbed by external things. Snow Eagle, I sensed 9 young palace head and the other 4 are approaching. Among them the fastest is withered tree old mother. Her real body and 9 clones are all approaching, and one of the clones will arrive very soon. Monarch Mo Shui, who was in the inner world, immediately reminded. Oh. Dongbu Shuiying also knew of withered tree old mother's clones, but since he chose to come out and wanted to bring Jing Qiu along, he was already prepared to be surrounded. Regardless, he continued to advance along the predetermined route. Suddenly Shuiying's ears moved slightly. He could hear some minute undulations coming from his ears. That was the vibration of space caused by flying at an ultra-high speed. This made the edge of Shuiying's mouth curl into a grin. It's here. Your Highness Dongbu, it's better not to escape, follow this old granny. A gray-robed old granny flew over from the front. Her wrinkled old face had a trace of excitement and anticipation. She really discovered him first. Dongbu Shuiying completely ignored her. Flipping his hand and extending his right hand, a scarlet cloud spear appeared in his hand. Humph, you still want to struggle? Let Mo Shui come out. He can still fight with me. As for you, Highness Dongbo, when you become a universe god in the 4th heaven, you might be able to fight with me. But now don't blame me. The gray-robed old granny reached out her right hand, and her shriveled right hand immediately transformed into countless roots. These twisted roots were densely packed, almost blocking the entire corridor. They then shot towards Dongbu Shuiying, intending to capture Dongbu Shuiying in one fell swoop. Shuiying frowned and waved his left hand as he saw the countless tree roots coming towards him. Bang! A surging faint purple flame rushed out, like a huge fire dragon flying out from Dongbu Shuiying's palm. At the same time, the temperature in the icy cave rose rapidly, and the ice layer immediately began to melt, turning into water. The water then continued to rise into mist, and the mist only existed for a moment before evaporating into nothingness. The change in the cave was extremely fast. The originally thick ice layer quickly melted and disappeared, revealing its true appearance, a rough and huge passageway. Saying it was slow. The faint purple fire dragon had already pounced on the countless roots in an instant. The 2 of them covered the entire sky and there was no way to avoid them. Ah! The gray-robed old granny immediately let out a cry of pain. Countless of the roots were almost instantly incinerated, and some of the thinner roots were also incinerated. Only the thickest and main roots were barely able to resist the flames. But such an intense pain caused the gray-robed old granny to reveal an expression of shock and anger. The roots quickly retracted, but the faint purple flame did not let her go, and completely enveloped her body, burning the gray-robed old granny to the point of letting out cries of pain. It was painful. Although this was just an avatar, it still had the strength of a powerful existence. Who would have thought that she would be burned to such an extent, and instantly be at a disadvantage? 10 Apocalyptic Flame, its power is not bad. Dongbu Shuiying praised inwardly. The 7th level of the 10 Apocalyptic Flame was originally something that only Stage 4 world deities could cultivate under normal circumstances. Because of the test of the Army of Destruction, Dongbu Shuiying had to spend so much time to cultivate it. Its difficulty was even higher than the 4th boundary of the 3rd volume of the Luminous Sun, and its power was also extremely impressive. As a world deity level secret technique that was close to an absolute art, after cultivating the 7th level, one's strength would be close to that of a powerful existence, and it relied on flames. And the gray-robed old granny specialized in tree roots and wood. Coincidentally, she was countered by the flames. The flames were powerful enough to counter her, and she had only sent an avatar. Naturally, she was burnt to the point where she could not retaliate. Woo. It was so painful that the gray-robed old granny could only turn around and escape. If she wasted any more time, this avatar would most likely be burnt to ashes. Your Highness Dongbua, you can't escape, stop struggling. The gray-robed old granny was still shouting as she escaped. Withered tree old mother, I'm afraid your strength is not enough. Dongbua Shuiying said indifferently, his voice reverberating in this rough and huge tunnel that had already changed greatly. And at this time, Monarch Mo Shui from the inner world immediately reminded, Snow Eagle, Sovereign Zhe Nua is approaching, Withered Tree Old Mother's real body is also approaching, and Nine Yang Palace head is also approaching. Understood. Dongbua Shuiying nodded and continued to advance at high speed. In just a breath's time. A majestic and huge rock giant whose entire body was burning with flames appeared in front of him. This rock giant also let out a powerful roar, Your Highness Dongbua, it's better if you surrender. As a magma giant that came from the dark abyss, Sovereign Zhe Nua was very confident in his strength. His right palm directly streaked across the sky, his palm rapidly becoming bigger, and directly grabbed towards Dongbua Shuiying. On this huge palm, flames rose, and the power caused time and space to faintly freeze. Not only was his strength extremely strong, even his realm was extremely high. Sovereign Zhe Nua, this is my god realm's matter, why do you, a person from the dark abyss, need to meddle? Dongbua Shuiying waved the long spear in his hand. When the long spear was waved, it caused the space to distort, and at the same time the long spear's body also rapidly expanded and became longer. In almost an instant, the long spear's head directly smashed onto the huge rock palm that was enveloping him. The corner of Sovereign Zhe Nua's mouth couldn't help but slightly curl up. Meet force with force? One must know that he had the strength to fight against powerful existences. Although his realm was high, his strength was his greatest advantage. When other experts of the same level fought with him, they wouldn't meet force with force. In battle, one had to display one's advantage and avoid one's weakness. This Highness Dongbua, who was filled with potential but was still very young, was actually going to meet force with him, Sovereign Zhe Nua? Rumble, Sovereign Zhe Nua's expression suddenly changed. He felt an incomparably vast power that made him feel faintly fearful coming from the long spear. That was a power that far surpassed his. In almost an instant, cracks appeared on his huge palm. Dongbua Shuiying's long spear directly smashed onto his palm, and then directly crushed over, smashing onto his body. He could only use his other hand to block at the same time. The huge body was whipped, and with a swoosh, it transformed into a stream of light and flew backwards, heavily smashing onto the ice layer of the ice passageway in the distance. The ice layer that was more than 100 feet long completely shattered, and the body that was burning with flames smashed onto the black mountain rocks. Sovereign Zhe Nua stared blankly for a moment, unable to react. He looked at Dongbua Shuiying, who was wielding the long spear in the distance. He, Sovereign Zhe Nua of the dark abyss. An existence that could rival powerful existences. The power that he was so proud of, was actually completely crushed. You want to meet force with me? Dongbua Shuiying retracted his long spear, feeling the terrifying power that was surging within his body that could destroy the heavens and exterminate the earth. The luminous sun force was extremely young and extremely ferocious, and the army of destruction soldiers absolute art extreme annihilation mysterious body cultivated his body to an extremely ferocious state, and also made his power and speed extremely ferocious. Combining the two, Dongbua Shuiying's battle power directly soared to the level of powerful existences. His realm was only at the stage 3 world deity realm, and he was still far from it. Compared to Sovereign Zhe Nua, compared to powerful existences, he was still much weaker. But why did he have the battle power of powerful existences? It was because his power and speed were too terrifying. So terrifying that it completely made up for the flaws in his realm. Sovereign Zhe Nua and a soldier who grasped an absolute art, and was even the most terrifying army of the ancient universe era, the army of destruction, competing in power? That was simply asking to be humiliated. If he relied on his realm to contend with Dongbua Shuiying, he could still hold on for a while. But if he met force with force head-on, he would be directly crushed. Chapter 570. This Dongbua Shuiying's strength has actually reached such a level. Sovereign Zhe Nua leaned against the black stone wall, but his heart was in turmoil. His strength has completely suppressed me, far surpassing me. Even if his realm is much weaker than mine just based on this terrifying strength, he can match powerful existences. But he is only a stage 3 world deity. A stage 3 world deity can match powerful existences, what about a stage 4 world deity? A stage 4 world deity was when one's strength increased the fastest, because they could comprehend by analogy, and grasp grade 1 deity heart after grade 1 deity heart, and could even increase their realm to the same level as powerful existences. Thus, stage 4 world deities fighting across realms was a common occurrence. In history there were some extremely tyrannical ones like Emperor Heavenly Cloud, who could even kill powerful existences as stage 4 world deities. And the legendary existence, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master. He was a stage 4 world deity, and was known as one of the 3 ancestors in the Bloodshed God Palace. Even his lifespan was ridiculously long. This Dongbua Shuang is too powerful. In the future, it won't be difficult for him to transcend and become a powerful existence. I believe he has the chance to become a paragon existence. Sovereign Zainua thought. His attitude towards Dongbua Shuang had changed. Unless there was a treasure that could allow him to transcend, he was not willing to offend Dongbua Shuang. After all, he was helping Nanyang Palace head this time, and it was impossible for him to obtain the true god weapon. Your Highness Dongbua, this flame-controlling secret technique of yours is truly powerful. A hoarse voice with a strange undulation reverberated within the tunnel. It's Withered Tree Old Mother. Sovereign Zainua immediately knew, but laughed coldly in his heart. This Withered Tree Old Mother was definitely going to suffer. Shio 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 shio. Twisted and powerful grayish-brown tree roots streaked across the sky, and heaven and earth faintly changed color. It was as if every tree root contained endless laws and mysteries. With one look, Dongbua Shuang knew that Withered Tree Old Mother's true body had come. Her true body's strength was much stronger, especially since these tree roots did not have countless tentacles. Only the trunk attacked and it could withstand his flames. Be careful, don't fight him head-on. Sovereign Zainua still transmitted a message. Humph. Withered Tree Old Mother leaned on her walking stick. The huge grayish-brown tree roots that separated from her hair had already surrounded and attacked. At this moment she was filled with anger and wanted to protect her face as a mighty being, so she did not care about Sovereign Zainua's words. Withered Tree Old Mother, is it worth risking your life for the Nanyang Palace head? Dongbua Shuang abruptly swung his spear with both hands. As he swung his spear down, it expanded rapidly and struck out mightily. There was a ring of darkness around the spear, but outside the ring of darkness was boundless radiance. However, Withered Tree Old Mother did not care about it at all. In terms of realm, the difference between them was too great. Her technique looked ordinary, but in reality, it was the fusion of many laws and profound mysteries into one. Pa pa pa, the spear swung down furiously, and the tree roots also fiercely lashed over, wanting to entangle Dongbua Shuang and capture him. However, when the spear lashed onto the tree roots, the grayish-brown tree roots broke apart one by one. This caused Withered Tree Old Mother's expression to change greatly, and she immediately controlled some of the grayish-brown tree roots to change their technique, becoming more feminine. However, the spear had already crushed in front of Withered Tree Old Mother. After all, when an expert made a move, one wrong move would immediately put her at a disadvantage. She waved the wooden walking stick in her hand to block. Pung, Withered Tree Old Mother's entire body flew backwards to dissipate the force, and then she staggered to the ground. She looked at the distant Dongbua Shuang in shock. If it could be said that she was careless at the beginning, then using the walking stick to block at the end was really going all out, but she was still suppressed. She immediately understood. This Highness Dongbua, his strength is not much different from mine. In terms of strength he is even more tyrannical. Saying it was slow. Withered Tree Old Mother's true body appeared, attacked, and was then suppressed and forced back. However, this happened in an instant. I have no ill intentions. Withered Tree Old Mother hurriedly shouted. Dongbua Shuang was stunned. He saw a figure suddenly appear beside Withered Tree Old Mother. This was a figure shrouded in a purple robe, and his head was covered. There were purple divine tattoos on his face, but his eyes were golden and he smiled. Highness Dongbua, Withered Tree indeed has no ill intentions. I just want to help Highness Dongbua avoid the pursuit of 9 sons. You are Purple-Robed Hex Emperor? Dongbua Shuang was astonished. Purple-Robed Hex Emperor. He was an extremely powerful major being from one of the 3 major powers of the deity realm, the Pantheon Palace. He had also risen up in the material realm, and when he was in the mortal world of the material realm, he called himself Purple-Robed. It seemed that Purple-Robed had a special meaning in his hometown. He had always been researching hex poisons and rarely ventured out to adventure. His attainments in hex poisons were extremely high, and he had even used hex poisons to modify his body, giving him an extremely tyrannical hex poison's body. He was also publicly acknowledged to be in existence close to the paragon level, and was equally famous as Nine-Yang Palace Head and Monarch Guzong. Nine-Yang Palace Head and Monarch Guzong were the personal disciples of Temporal Island Lord and Blood Blade respectively, which was why they had combat strength close to that of a paragon. However, purple-robed Hex Emperor had always been relying on himself. He had immersed himself in researching hex poisons, and it was normal for him to research for billions of years. I didn't expect your highness to know my name. I haven't been out for a long time. Your highness, now isn't the time to chat. How about I bring your highness away first? 9 sons will be here soon. Purple-robed Hex Emperor said. There's no need to trouble Hex Emperor. Dongbo Shuang smiled. Purple-robed Hex Emperor shook his head lightly. It's not troublesome. Just as he finished his words, Dongbo Shuang felt a wave of dizziness. Luckily, he had cultivated the extreme annihilation mysterious body, and his body was extremely strong, much stronger than many powerful existences. His endurance was also much stronger. Although he felt dizzy, he was still able to maintain his consciousness. The soldiers of the Army of Destruction weren't that easy to capture. Not good. Dongbo Shuang immediately retreated explosively. Amen? Purple-robed Hex Emperor was astonished. Even ordinary powerful existences would have fainted and collapsed. This Dongbo Shuang was actually able to withstand it? Wasn't his body's resistance to hex poisons too strong? With this explosive retreat, Dongbo Shuang's speed immediately soared. If purple-robed Hex Emperor wanted to capture him again, he would have to waste some time. However, there wasn't enough time. So, a cold youth instantly flew over from afar. His face was filled with killing intent as he glanced at Withered Tree Old Mother. Withered Tree Old Mother stood beside purple-robed Hex Emperor and smiled. This old granny has a favor to ask of Hex Emperor. Palace Head, I'm sorry? Nine-Yang Palace Head looked coldly at purple-robed Hex Emperor and said solemnly, Purple Robe, you want to fight with me? You are someone who studies hex poisons and you want to snatch true god weapons? Every true god weapon has its own path. I am currently stuck at a bottleneck and am unable to improve. I can only use it as a reference. Maybe I can be inspired and take that step. Purple-robed Hex Emperor's face, which was filled with purple god markings, smiled. Nine-Yang, you have the absolute art of Time Island Lord. However, if you were to fight with me, I'm afraid the one to take away His Highness Dongbo will still be me. So I advise you to give up. Is that so? Nine-Yang Palace Head's eyes were filled with killing intent. The two of them faced each other from afar. The terrifying aura caused the hearts of the surrounding Withered Tree Old Mother and Sovereign Zainua to tighten. The two of them were extremely powerful and their battle prowess was close to that of a paragon. Ordinary almighty existences couldn't fight against them at all. You should know that your chances are very low. Purple-robed Hex Emperor was still indifferent. Nine-Yang Palace Head's killing intent was getting stronger and stronger. He knew that in terms of battle prowess the two of them were equal. However, purple-robed Hex Emperor had walked up step by step and didn't have any absolute art. To have such battle prowess he relied on many techniques. He had many techniques. For example, some of his clones were much stronger than Nine-Yang Palace Head. Nine-Yang Palace Head understood that his chances of success were less than 10% when the two of them snatched Dongbo Shuang. Seems like I still have to make a move. Purple-robed Hex Emperor's golden eyes started to have countless runes circulating. He could see the laws of heaven and earth clearly and his killing intent started to rise. Dongbo Shuang, who was far away, also felt threatened. He transmitted a message, Big Brother Huo Cheng, I can't fight against these two. Oh. A figure appeared beside Dongbo Shuang. It was Paragon Huo Cheng. Leave it to me. Don't worry, it won't be long. Paragon Huo Cheng grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. He then stepped on the void and walked over. The distant Nine-Yang Palace Head and purple-robed Hex Emperor felt an intense sense of danger at the same time. It was as though a huge sun star was approaching. The two of them hurriedly turned their heads. From afar, they saw a figure bathed in blazing flames walking over. His figure was majestic and he wore simple clothes, revealing a patch of red skin. He had messy red hair, a red beard and red eyebrows. It was as though he was the ruler of the flames. His eyes looked over, and there seemed to be endless volcanoes hidden deep in his eyes. Paragon Huo Cheng. Purple-robed Hex Emperor and Nine-Yang Palace Head were shocked. Paragon Huo Cheng was an extremely ancient paragon. His master was also the first ruler of the deity world and abyss, the primal master. Paragon Huacheng had lived for far too long. His strength was also extremely tyrannical. Before Monarch Green and the rest rose up, Paragon Huacheng was already one of the strongest paragons. At that time even Pang Yi had to stand slightly behind. Dongbo Shuang is my brother, a life and death brother. Paragon Huacheng's entire body was covered in blazing flames. His eyes emitted an overwhelming pressure. Are you guys going to scram? Or should I beat you up? Paragon Huacheng's voice was like thunder rumbling over. Chapter 571. Purple-gowned Hex Emperor and Nine Yang Palace head felt suffocated as the pressure shrouded their hearts. If it was some new paragon who had just opened up his own Dao path, the two of them wouldn't be afraid. But Paragon Huacheng was different. He had lived for far too long and had long opened up his own Dao path. Furthermore, he had walked very far on this Dao path. The difference in power between them was obvious. Even if they joined hands, they would be easily suppressed. Hong, heat waves surged forth, causing the stable space of Lake Heart Island to distort. Greetings, Paragon Huacheng. Purple-gowned Hex Emperor bowed slightly. Paragon Huacheng looked at him and nodded. Purple-gowned, remember the last time we met, you were just an ordinary true god. Now that your power has reached such a stage, it is all because of your own comprehension. You are close to opening your own path. Purple-gowned Hex Emperor smiled humbly. Paragon Huacheng has overpraised me. I'm also stuck at a bottleneck. I always feel that there is an invisible barrier when I want to take this step. Hence, I came out to seek opportunities. And don't be anxious. Take it slow. Paragon Huacheng said. Although he was overbearing, he had no killing intent towards Purple-gowned Hex Emperor and Nine Yang Palace head. Since Paragon Huacheng is willing to stand up for His Highness Dong Bo, I will naturally not pester you any further. I will take my leave first. Purple-gowned Hex Emperor smiled and immediately brought Dried Tree Old Mother away. Only the Nine Yang Palace head was unwilling. Paragon Huacheng's oppressive gaze landed on Nine Yang Palace head. He curled his lips. Nine Yang, you are a disciple of Temporal Island Lord and a personal disciple of Island Lord. Now you are equal to Purple-gowned. Now you still want to snatch Monarch Emo Shue's true god weapon. Dongbo Shuang. Nine Yang Palace head bellowed. From afar, Dongbo Shuang flew over and landed beside Paragon Huacheng. He immediately said politely, Nine Yang Palace head, Monarch Emo Shue has done me a great favor. I will definitely protect him. Although his power had increased by a lot, it was not the time for his wife's identity to be exposed. After all, Paragon Huacheng could not protect him all the time. Once he became a stage 4 world deity, there would be nothing to worry about. You owe me a great favor? What kind of great favor is it for you to risk your life like this? Nine Yang Palace head was enraged. Isn't it just some pointers during the Myriad Flower Feast? You've already repaid the karma by protecting his kingdom. I will act according to my heart. I cannot back down from this matter. Dongbo Shuang said. Paragon Huacheng, who was at the side, glared as a formless heat wave rushed over, causing Nine Yang Palace head's expression to change. A layer of misty sword light appeared on the surface of his body, blocking the heat wave. Paragon Huacheng scolded angrily, Nine Yang, I've given you face. Moreover, entering the ruins to explore, obtaining treasures depended on one's own means. Emo Shue risked his life to obtain a true god weapon. It was his luck. It would have been fine if you had relied on your strength to snatch it, but now I am here. Your strength is far from enough, so don't act like a scoundrel. The Nine Yang Palace head gritted his teeth. He was unwilling. He had cultivated for a long time, but he was unable to take that step to open his own path. This true god weapon was a fortuitous encounter. Scram? Paragon Huacheng no longer had any patience. Let's go. Nine Yang Palace head took a glance, gritted his teeth and turned to leave. Sovereign Zhe Nua and Emperor Prison Dragon who had rushed over also left swiftly. Dongbo Shuang looked at this scene. Big Brother Huacheng's reputation was indeed widespread. He didn't even bother to make a move, and the other party immediately retreated. Nine Yang, this kid has extraordinary potential. Paragon Huacheng's eyes under his red brows were filled with regret. A pity that his cultivation heart is flawed. He is too eager for instant benefits, and is trying his best to find all sorts of external support to become a paragon as soon as possible. But the more anxious he is, the less hope he has. External support is ultimately just external support. He still has to rely on his inner self. Nine-Yang Palace head should also understand this logic. Dongbo Shuang said, knowing is easy but doing is hard. Amen. Paragon Huoqing nodded. Knowing is easy but doing is hard. Everyone understood this logic. But to truly achieve it, it was difficult. Let's go and fetch your wife. Paragon Huoqing laughed. Dongbo Shuang immediately led the way, advancing rapidly. In the ice cave at the periphery of Lake Heart Island, Jingqiu was meditating here. But today she was standing on a piece of ice, looking into the distance. Father. Jingqiu saw the figure of the white-haired, white-bearded, black-robed old man, and couldn't help but be overjoyed. Daughter. Monarch Mo Shui also flew over. The father and daughter pair hugged each other upon meeting. Jingqiu's eyes were filled with tears. Her father had given her the true god weapon, and very soon her father would be reincarnating. This made Jingqiu's heart filled with reluctance. Not far away from them, Dongbo Shuang and Paragon Huoqing were looking from afar. Paragon Huoqing, who was dressed in scarlet red with red hair and red brows, stood there emitting heat waves, causing the surrounding ice to melt. He looked from afar. Nine-Yang and Purple Gown don't know that this Mo Shui is your father-in-law. Your wife isn't bad either to actually be a stage 4 world deity. Paragon Huoqing's eyes had a trace of reminiscence. In his eyes, Monarch Mo Shui, Jingqiu, and Dongbo Shuang were all little fellows. After all, he had been imprisoned for more than 100 billion years just this time. It's a pity that without transcending, there's no way to be eternal. Dongbo Shuang sighed. As long as one lives happily, there's no need to care about the length of time. Paragon Huoqing laughed. Oh right, brother Dongbo, I've told you before that if you save me, I'll give you a huge benefit. It's a pity that your strength is still too weak, and this benefit isn't of much use to you. It's of great use to your master's blood blade. Dongbo Shuang asked, what great benefit? Back then when I barged into Lake Heart Island, even though I was ultimately imprisoned, I also obtained a huge harvest. Paragon Huoqing smiled. I discovered the records of an ancient cavern dwelling. It's a cavern dwelling that the Lake Heart Island master once lived in. A cavern dwelling that the Lake Heart Island master once lived in? Dongbo Shuang was astonished. Lake Heart Island master. Even though this time when he came to Lake Heart Island, he had merely entered a dangerous place, the ruined paradise, and that was merely the encampment of an army under him. It wasn't even the true core of Lake Heart Island. But just this dangerous place alone made Dongbo Shuang understand how incredible the Lake Heart Island master was. The cavern dwelling that he once lived in? Just thinking about it, one would know that it was definitely extraordinary. Amen. Paragon Huoqing nodded. The Lake Heart Island master should have wanted to leave behind some gifts for the living beings of the future cosmos epochs. That's why he left behind so many opportunities. The records of the Lake Heart Island master's ancient cavern dwelling that I discovered should be one of the gifts that the Lake Heart Island master intentionally left behind. It's a pity that such an existence as cavern dwelling, even if it was intentionally left behind, it would still be filled with danger. Without sufficient power, one wouldn't be able to receive the gifts from the Lake Heart Island master. Paragon Huoqing said, Brother Dongbo, your power is still too weak. It's not suitable for you to participate in this. I understand. Dongbo Shuang nodded. He was only a stage 3 world deity. Even if his fighting power had increased tremendously, he wouldn't be a match for Nine-Yang Palace master and the rest. Not to mention some of the ancient paragons or even his master, Blood Blade, who was a ruler-level existence. I have already informed my master and Blood Blade of the news. Paragon Huoqing smiled. This time the investigation of the Lake Heart Island master's ancient cavern dwelling will be carried out by my master and Blood Blade. Originally, I planned to only carry out the operation with my master's faction. But now both factions are working together. This is all because of you, brother Dongbo. Dongbo Shuang was stunned. Snow Eagle. A voice suddenly rang in Dongbo Shuang's mind. Master. Dongbo Shuang immediately recognized that it was his master, Blood Blade. He could even feel that from a faraway place, his master, Blood Blade, was looking at him. Come with Huoqing to the God Palace to see me. Blood Blade transmitted. Yes. Dongbo Shuang replied. Not bad, kid. You're quite powerful. You can even help your master. Another voice rang in Dongbo Shuang's mind. It was the voice of the Black Bird. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.